You gonna tweet?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna tweet. All right. I still am always slightly confused about the sequence of events for starting these live streams.
We're only seeing this, right? It looks like it's doing ads on the.
Yeah. I think so. I'm not. I'm not a live streamer. Although I guess I am now.
You are now, yeah, you are.
Wow.
No, you and Carla should start doing like the Twitch, like the thing where it's just like 7 hours of live stream.
Dude,
Actually, you should not, but that would be entertaining. If it was me, you'd just see me like absolutely in love with my kids and then screaming at them.
And just like that, we are live.
We are back, baby.
No one's screaming at anyone's kids. This is the breaking bit. It's cool. It's cool. My name is Walker America. I am here with Alex Thorn, head of research at Galaxy. Alex was just with us last week, and we liked it so much we had to bring him back on again. Alex, welcome back to the breaking bit. It is good to have you back. We are going to have some fun here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Walker. Great to be back.
And this is kind of a perfect timing. It's always perfect timing having you here. But we just saw yesterday, Square announced their release. They've been obviously talking about this for some time, but it just officially went live yesterday. 4 million plus merchants having the ability to accept Bitcoin right from their Square terminals there. A lot of other features built in there, and it's kind of amazing to see, because this is just like a beautiful example of Bitcoin mass adoption happening from the merchant level, right? Or at least enabling it to. I want to maybe start there, just like initial takes on this. To me, this is just like an overwhelmingly good thing. I love to see Bitcoin used as a medium of exchange. How are you looking at this? And do you think this kind of creates some additional ripple effects? Like 4 million merchants is a lot of merchants.
Yeah, I think this is probably the biggest step function increase in the likelihood of Bitcoin being widely adopted as a medium of exchange since the Lightning Network was invented. And I think the Lightning Network has been pretty successful, but not at the scale that the Square terminals could be. I mean, it's the largest merchant payment terminal hardware or platform in the United States. I don't know how big they are abroad, but I assume they're pretty big as well. So I think it's absolutely massive. I mean, this is kind of, though, maybe the make or break moment now, right? I mean, if this can't get people, and by the way, I think there are big benefits for both spenders and merchants to actually use Bitcoin in this situation. But if this can't get Bitcoin more widely used as an MOE, I'm not really sure what else could. This seems like the biggest signal for that could possibly exist.
It really does. And I mean, I think one of the interesting things here is just like looking back at some of Bitcoin's, let's say, medium of exchange history. You had times long before I was in Bitcoin when some very big players announced they would be accepting Bitcoin, right? I think did Apple even do this at one point? Like
Microsoft, AT&T, there were some big ones, yeah. And most of that was through BitPay, though, which is, I think, which is fine. I mean, but is custodial and is not, and I think would not even let them keep the Bitcoin. I think it had to be liquidated to cash. They all kind of gave up on that, though. You're right.
Well, and that's the thing. This is, I think, a very different, let's say, setup than those were. Those were individual companies kind of doing this. This is Square underneath the umbrella of Block. enabling this for merchants. It's not, a mandatory thing, but it's something they can opt into. They can start accepting Bitcoin very easily. They were actually demoing this at the Bitcoin conference in Nashville, or in Las Vegas this past summer. I was spending as much Bitcoin as I could. I love to spend Bitcoin and then replace it instantly, so there's no taxable event, of course, for any IRS agents listening. That's a whole different story, though, about de minimis exemptions. But regardless, this is something that this isn't about giant corporations accepting. This is about like mom and pop shops. Like that's, Square is really an enabler of small businesses, right? And so that's why I think this is so particularly heartening. And you've seen already just a hugely positive response from people going out there into their communities, talking to their favorite merchants that use Square and talking to them about Bitcoin. And now instead of having to say, here, download this, download that, set this up, it's like, no, just turn this on. That's what I think. This fact that it's turnkey is a hugely kind of transformative moment, it feels, for medium of exchange adoption more broadly.
Yeah, I think it's anytime an existing incumbent adds Bitcoin support, it's just a lot easier. The 0 to 1 moment doesn't have to happen, right? It's 1 to 1.1, right? It's a lot easier for them to turn on. I think this turns on, Jack Dorsey tweeted fiat to fiat, which they already obviously have, then Bitcoin to fiat, right? Accept Bitcoin, but don't even notice it in your back end. I don't see why eventually many won't do that. That seems like a no-brainer, right? Just offer your clients the option, your consumers, and then they have Bitcoin to Bitcoin. Oh, you want to keep the Bitcoin you get, and then they have, I think, fiat to Bitcoin, where it's actually convert a portion of your fiat sales into Bitcoin. So it's all of the on and off ramps, and I think that's super interesting. I think at a minimum, I mean, it does. My understanding is it does require the admin of the Square account makes sense. Probably the owner of the business or the whoever is in charge of the point of sale to go in and turn, to choose. It doesn't get enabled by default. It's not like a Core V30 filter change that gets enabled by default, right? So it won't be immediate. It's not like every place you go that uses the Square terminal is going to instantly accept Bitcoin. But I don't see any reason for every single one to not turn on the Bitcoin to fiat. That's a no-brainer, right? That's theoretically adding to your payment options, right? And that it costs nothing for them too. I think this is all 0 fee through the end of next year. And then I think you'll start to realize that like this is such a potent on-ramp adoption mechanism for a merchant of, well, maybe I do want to actually stack a little bit of that Bitcoin. Why? Let's say they start accepting it for 6 months, and then Bitcoin goes up in value, and they're like, man, I really should have kept some of that Bitcoin, right? It's pretty easy to see how this results in wider Bitcoin adoption, not just taking coins from Bitcoiners and giving them goods and services, but actually resulting in a more of a circular economy.
Yeah, I think that's really the incredible thing is this, it's not just accepting Bitcoin, right? This is really in a way sort of, using Bitcoin as a bit of a rails to a certain extent because of those conversions that you mentioned. Like, and in my mind, the fact that they're offering this with 0 fees until I think it might even be for a couple of years, actually, which is incredible. Meanwhile, I believe their credit card fees are something like 3%.
Yeah, 2 to 3%. Yeah, that was a good point. I think because there's good reason not only for them to accept it because why not? It costs nothing for them to accept, literally or figuratively. It's no effort, but it's cheaper, and so you could actually see any Square enabled person or a merchant that knows about Bitcoin, you might actually see them start to offer a discount if you pay in Bitcoin, knowing that they're saving on the interchange fees. So and even if they don't, I think once they realize there are no interchange fees, it's a no-brainer to adopt.
Yeah, and that's kind of the beautiful thing, and I think that's something that people have theorized for a while, and many have actually put into practice, right? It's like when you're using the fiat rails, especially if you're a mom and pop shop, right? You're a small business. Those couple percentage fees that you pay in credit card, that is significant. Like that is directly cutting into your margin. That is making it difficult to do business. You can't borrow at the same cost of capital as the big guys. You don't get the same preferential setups that some of these big players do, like a Walmart or something like that. You're not getting those same sweetheart deals with the credit card companies. That's cutting into your bottom line in a meaningful way. And so when I see this sort of these changes roll out, and again, 4 million merchants, that's a lot of merchants. That's a lot of people that can now turn this on and start seeing the power of Bitcoin. And I think you hinted at this earlier, but part of the feature set they rolled out also includes kind of this automatic conversion to Bitcoin for your own treasury, right? You can take a portion of the proceeds. I think they have a nice little slider. And you can basically say, I want to keep this portion in Bitcoin, like basically creating your own little, it's turning 4 million merchants into their own mom and pop shop Bitcoin treasury companies. Like, to me, that's insanely bullish from the perspective of Bitcoin doing what Bitcoin does best, which is protecting the value of your time and energy, your hard work, and then also making payments frictionless, or at least significantly reducing the friction and reducing the cost associated with it. Like, I know from all the Solana or XRP people say Bitcoin's too slow and everything, and they clearly haven't used the Lightning Network, which works fantastically well. Although I've recently heard Lightning is not Bitcoin. I don't know where this started. That's a different story. But
I don't believe that at all. But I have also heard it. And look, of course it works. It's got the word network right in it. All right. Lightning Network. All right. It works. It actually literally does work. I've used it literally maybe hundreds of times. And by the way, your point, it's not one. I know well that PubKey NYC has in the past, I don't know if it's perpetual, but has offered a 21% discount on payments made in Bitcoin. That's how bullish they are. That's how much they want you to spend Bitcoin to them. But also think about all the local places you go like this. I see this all the time when I go to my mechanic. Credit cards, 3% surcharge, right? Like, they're already passing. They hate the interchange fees so much. Many businesses, if they're not explicitly tacking it on, then they're baking it into the cost of the goods that you're buying, right? So it's a no-brainer that if those fees go away by whatever mechanism, then your costs as a consumer are likely to go down.
Oh yeah, this is one of the reasons that you see a lot of businesses still, even in this age where governments would like to get rid of cash because it's very inconvenient for them to track it and surveil it. We still see a lot of smaller businesses. Like, I see this a lot with mechanics and body shops. They will just say like, no credit cards. We just won't accept them at all. Like, you can pay by check or you can pay by cash. Like, we don't want, debit card. We do not want your credit card. We do not want to be burdened with those fees. Because the other thing is it's not actually final settlement, right? All of those can be walked back for however many weeks. You can, dispute it. And so you don't actually know if that money is going to end up with you. And it's the merchant who gets screwed in that case, right? Like, if you do a fraud, if you debate a charge for fraud, even if you really did it, and the credit card company reverses it, like, it's the merchant who has to eat that. And I think that that's one of the other reasons, like Bitcoin being final settlement, like, this is a really powerful thing. This is very empowering for the merchants to be able to actually say, look, we're going to accept a superior money. We're also going to be able to save in the superior money. And we're not going to be burdened with these expensive and honestly just kind of absurd frameworks that the credit card companies put on us. Like, I think there was also just a big lawsuit that was won against, I believe, maybe Visa and MasterCard. I don't know if you saw that at all, but like, specifically because they just basically extort small merchants and screw them over because they're the only game in town, right? They can push them around. Yeah.
And there's some movement or a plan I saw for the credit card companies teaming up now with consumers, I think in the wake of that lawsuit, to possibly lower interchange fees. Gosh, that would be nice for everyone. And I said, wow, maybe this is in response to stable coins or perhaps in response to Square, right? But then I read the article and I think they're only planning on lowering them like, 1 basis point or like something 10 basis points. So, okay, instead of 3%, it's 2.9%. I mean, to me, like, they can't lower it. Okay. The credit card companies, that's their monetization. That's their business, right? So this is, I think, threatening. It's very interesting, especially for Jack and Square and Block, that to be the ones doing this, since they are, of course, huge partners to the credit card companies. I mean, with all those merchants, most people are spending with credit cards at those places. So he is directly sort of, I don't want to say attacking, but innovating against his incumbent partnerships on this one. And by the way, that is a trend you see with Block and Square and Cash App and Spiral that is really inspiring. They've been saying this. I think that Miles Sutter tweeted about this, that not only do they do Bitcoin stuff, which theoretically could erode other parts of their business, they also fund open source development. I think they were the first to fund BTC Pay Server, which is frankly an open source version of the Square terminal. Not the physical hardware, but the software. So like they have proven to be, I think, the most steadfast pro Bitcoin adoption company, certainly public company, I think, in the world. And it just shows, frankly, I'm kind of surprised this didn't happen sooner. We've sort of been, mythologizing about the day that Square would one day turn this on, because obviously Jack Dorsey is one of the world's biggest supporters of Bitcoin. He apparently appears to believe steadfastly, I think he said explicitly, that if Bitcoin isn't used for everyday payments, then it will be a failure. And here he is, he's doing it. I mean, that's sort of what I say. It's not to make it seem dire, but if this doesn't work, I don't know anybody better positioned to make Bitcoin a medium of exchange than Jack Dorsey, either with the conviction he has or the platform he has to enable it and promote its adoption. So I think it's a really powerful moment. I mean, I said since the Lightning Network, this is probably the biggest step change since in medium of exchange Bitcoin. But I mean, the Lightning Network at the time wasn't that big of a step change. I think it's become crucial, and I think the Cash App and Square terminals, they offer Lightning. So like it's actually an essential part of what Jack is offering here. Because 10-minute block time, it's still not great for like standing in line and paying at a coffee shop, right? So, but Lightning, I mean, people that have used it, I can't, like I'll attest to it. I'll put my reputation on the line. It works and it's extremely fast. But I encourage people to try it. So that was sort of probably necessary to get where we are. But this feels like a 0 to 1 moment in terms of merchant acceptance.
It really does. And for anybody who hasn't, do whatever you want with your money. I don't like that's the whole point of Bitcoin is, people can't tell you what to do with your money. But if you want, like, if you are a Bitcoiner and you have not paid for any sort of goods or services in Bitcoin, I really do encourage you to try doing so. And because it feels really good to be able to do it, and you can just buy the sats back immediately. Like,
right. Or you can buy them before you go and spend even.
Yeah.
I've got cold storage Bitcoin. I'm not busting into that cold storage to buy stuff at Real Bedford FC or PubKey or the places that I go frequently that accept Bitcoin, but I know they want to accept Bitcoin. I love the flow of paying in Bitcoin. And I'll just walk around with a couple $100 in a Lightning wallet. It's pretty easy when it runs. That same thing. I was at the Bitcoin conference in Vegas. I went to that square. It was like a food truck of like accoutrements, accoutrement, you might say, stickers, like keychains, like T-shirts. I bought like one of everything. And by the way, the other crazy thing, they've got the full stack. You can do all of it on their own Cash App. You can pay over Lightning to the Square merchant on Block's app. So, and of course, they've also built the hardware wallet, the BitKey, and they've built an ASIC. I mean, the guy is on fire for like the core Bitcoin vision. He's trying to decentralize mining. He's built a hardware wallet that's easy to use, so easy that it was the first time in, my 10 years in Bitcoin, 10 plus years, that I actually finally told my mom it's time to pull your stuff down off Coinbase and put it on hardware wallet. That's how easy the BitKey is to use. He's got the on and off ramps at Cash App, which includes Lightning, and auto buy and DCA, and accept your paycheck and get it paid in Bitcoin, a whole bunch of Bitcoin features in Cash App. And now the merchants have all the same features. So he's almost got the full life cycle from mining all the way through spending. It's really an inspiring thing, especially in a world that is so enamored now with like blockchain. Again, blockchains are back, stable coins, tokenized equities. Like, I'm not a hater of those things, but like Bitcoin's been waiting for this. Like, this feels like a culmination. I can't wait. Obviously, we don't know how good adoption or how fast it'll be by the merchants, but I mean, this is going to be something I'm watching every Block Inc. like earnings call and earnings report to be like, how many merchants have turned it on? How many merchants? And I think it's just going to go up. I don't know how fast or how high it will get, but like, I don't see any reason for this not to pick up. It's so easy to just add another payment option now. You don't have to do anything. You don't even have to accept Bitcoin. If you're all worried about how to account for the different blah, 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 like just let your people spend with it. I envision that. I don't see why. I bet you soon enough, a new merchant, when they sign up for Square and have the terminal delivered to their place of business and they start doing the onboarding flow, it's going to eventually start defaulting to like, I mean, you can turn it off, but it'll probably just default like accept Bitcoin also. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I know. And I think that that's huge. And beyond just the ease of being able to set this up now, because I think that's always been a huge friction point for merchants, right? Is I don't want to have to deal with another thing. I don't want to have to, set up another thing. Like, I just want this to be easy. I want it to be a part of what I'm already doing, my existing workflow. Okay, that's been handled now. The other part that I think needs to be talked about a lot is the fact that accepting Bitcoin is good for business. Like, Steak and Shake is a great example of this. They, out of, kind of came out of nowhere and we're like, we're going to just use beef tallow now for our fries. And we're going to start selling beef tallow too. And we're going to, and you know what? We're going to start accepting Bitcoin. We're going to put a Bitcoin brand on our burger. Like, that has driven a ton of people who would probably never otherwise have gone to a Steak and Shake to go to Steak and Shakes now multiple times and then to post about it online and to get a ton of engagement. That is an incredible tool for basically free advertising and just general organic viral potential in your marketing that you don't have to do yourself. Like, that has been a huge boon for Steak and Shake. And I think for any business, being able to say, look, we accept Bitcoin, Bitcoiners welcome, come on down here and spend some sats. Like, Bitcoiners want to do that. I think most Bitcoiners have a desire to, like, look, I want to go out and use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. Maybe not all, but I think, most that I talk to do. I want to be able to use it as a medium of exchange, and I want to support businesses that allow me to do that. I will go and give them my business over giving my business to somebody who doesn't accept Bitcoin, specifically because I at least know we're slightly more ideologically aligned. Like, they're accepting the future of money. I want to go spend my money, my hard-earned sats, somewhere that is on the same page with me, at least about Bitcoin being a medium of exchange. Like, and I think that that's super powerful. I think we're going to see it. You're already seeing this. Businesses getting called out saying, look, I just, this merchant just turned on Bitcoin. I went down there, bought whatever, bought a coffee, bought, a steak from my butcher, whatever it might be. Go check these guys out. Like, that is the best kind of organic free marketing that you can possibly get. And Bitcoiners are a ravenous bunch, right? Both literally and figuratively. Like,
right.
we are hungry to spend our Bitcoin, and we are just generally hungry for, especially, a good steak.
And it's a global community. It's global, right? You're tapping into a network of millions of people around the world. In your local, if you're in a small town, there might only be like a dozen people that like it, but you tap into the global network. You piggyback on its success and its adoption, its marketing. It's what Peter McCormack calls the cheat code. It's the name of his conference. It's all about this exact topic, about how it was one thing to be an up and coming football club in the middle of England. It was quite another to be the Bitcoin football club in England and attract a global audience. And now he has this conference that's adjacent to that, and it attracts hundreds and hundreds of people and a ton of business for his town. It's revolutionized the town of Bedford. Same thing, Pubkey, just a great bar, Bitcoin themed, now a mecca that people have to visit in New York, right? Steak and Shake CEO, you mentioned Steak and Shake. I forget the numbers that he said, but when he came to the Bitcoin conference, he talked about like genuinely significant growth in revenue and marketing and social media, eyeballs. Like, it's an undeniable success. And again, no one is saying, and nor is Square, that you have to stop accepting fiat, right? You're not ostracizing anyone, but for the global community that is truly global and quite large, that loves Bitcoin, you're adding to that. And I don't know any other communities that are as global, cohesive, dedicated, driven to support than the Bitcoin community. It's just really quite a fascinating thing, honestly. So it's the cheat code. It's pretty easy. Don't get me wrong. I'm waiting to see that map. Like, where I live, same thing. When the Steak and Shake thing happened, I went and looked up, are there Steak and Shakes near me? Apparently years ago, there used to be, and they all closed down. Now I'm literally like tweeting at the guy, like, yo, if you open a Steak and Shake here, you better believe I would go. Right. And I'm a guy that buys beef from a local rancher and has made his own tallow. So I also like that. I mean, those guys are really deep in the Bitcoin culture rabbit hole, which I really like, but you don't even have to go that far, right? There are people in every town and city probably in the world that like Bitcoin. You instantly put yourself on the map and you become a draw for both new and existing customers.
Yeah. And you mentioned it there, the map that Cash App has now turned on. I think actually they were preparing to release it. I think they have a release maybe tomorrow or Thursday, but Jack was like showing
they rushed
clearly a beta version and was like, yeah, here's the map. And they're like, okay, well, I guess it's coming out today.
Ship it.
Which is kind of amazing.
Yeah.
But I love to see that too. It's a great example of people will use these tools to discover businesses specifically because they accept Bitcoin. Like that.
You don't
that
need
is a
that
huge
many
tool.
eyeballs, right? Walker, you go to a new place, anything, a deli, a restaurant, a dry cleaner, a car wash, and you have a great experience, no matter even without the Bitcoin, you still have a great experience. What do? You tell people, right? They ask you. You don't go around necessarily evangelizing every day, but when your friend says, "Hey, I need to get this dry cleaned. Do you have a good recommendation?" And if you have one, you tell, right? Small business thrives on word of mouth, and so you only need one good evangelist, one or two, and so you're going to attract in your local community the Bitcoiner to come and spend there. And if the rest of it's honestly, it's like there's like a margin here. Like the rest of it doesn't even have to be as good for a Bitcoiner to like it, right? Like it has to be good, but like, I'll give you like some discount in like how the bar is lowered if you accept Bitcoin. Now I'm like, well, I just like that guy. They're Bitcoiners at that store, right? And now you're sort of guaranteeing more word of mouth, like not just to the other Bitcoiners that initial Bitcoiner knows, but everyone else in their life. Like they're going to say, look, man, go to, if my dry cleaner accepts it, I'm going to start telling my wife and all her friends and all of my friends that that's the good dry cleaner in my area. It's pretty straightforward. Like it's an easy, it is the cheat code, as Peter says.
And it truly is. And that's the thing, is as more of these things happen, like Square enabling this, and I think this is just does feel like a watershed moment. It normalizes this, right? It makes it this isn't some crazy thing for a Bitcoin or for a business to accept Bitcoin. This is just a logical thing that you would do. Like, you want new customers to come in. You will bring in new customers thanks to accepting Bitcoin. And you will ultimately, hopefully, go down that path of orange pilling yourself as you see, wow, I've got more people coming in and spending Bitcoin. Maybe I should look into this Bitcoin thing a little bit more. Maybe I'll start taking 1, 5, 10% of my proceeds and saving Bitcoin with them. And wow, I just, I've been doing this for 4 years, and holy shit, this is amazing. What is this thing? I think we're going to see that kind of cascade happening just very naturally.
Yeah, and like if maybe like PubKey in recent years, PubKey and Real Bedford maybe were the spark that lit the fuse, and Steak and Shake fanned the flame. Like, this is gasoline on the fire for merchant adoption. Like, this is like a true step function increase. We really have no idea how big this could get. Honestly, I think it could get pretty big. Like, for small business, you highlighted that early on in this conversation, Walker. I think for small business, this is a no-brainer. It's also relatively low dollar spend. So it's not like the whole thing about do I want to spend a ton of Bitcoin when I think it's going to go up? No. Do I have a problem spending a couple $100? Like, no. Also, no. Right? Like, I could do that. Like, and so I think that's huge. And then the other part of this that I think is also worth pointing out is that this is a real test for the Lightning Network, right? I think a lot of this is going to be Lightning. Cash App has made it easy for Lightning, right? So it's not like you also have to go download and run a node in order to spend Lightning. You can just use the same app that these guys already make. I bet you will see even cleaner integrations between Cash App, paying with Cash App at a Square terminal over Bitcoin, even than they are today. I think you're doing QR codes, and that's also quite easy. But I bet you'll start to see NFC tap with your phone, and just get really easy. These guys at Square are masters of user experience. They've always been well known for their design skills, almost more, and not even just their product design, but literally their graphic design. They are famous for their green color and the smoothness of their app. The spiral marketing has always been this beautiful, elaborate, but simple, or deep, but very simple and colorful, obscure colors that somehow resonate really well. They're going to make this as easy as possible for both the spender and the merchant. And Lightning will be a big part of that. So I'm really quite interested to see, if Lightning grows significantly. I've seen it's up a bit in terms of the amount of Bitcoin that's in channels. Cash App also said at the Bitcoin conference that their node's making a fairly large amount of money. I think it was something like $10 million a year. Now, they're a very well-connected Lightning node. But this also raises a really interesting thing. And gosh, with everything that Square has done, fast forward a couple of years, we assume that merchant adoption's gone well with the terminal, accepting Bitcoin, converting, storing it as a treasury, whatever. Wouldn't be surprised if they start making hardware wallets for merchants, or even nodes for merchants. Oh, you know what? Run your own Lightning server to make it even cheaper for you to accept, or whatever, right? This is not hard to imagine. They've got computers in all of these stores. What else could they build on that? They basically have a shipped payment node. That's what the Square terminal is. Either the handheld. Remember, they got famous for using the little plugins to the phones for really small merchants. Those are hardware. That's a platform they can build on, and I'm really excited to see what they build on it.
No, I am as well. I just think it's a nice moment. It's a great opportunity for Bitcoiners to go out there and put their money where their mouth is, and use their money to buy things to put in their mouths to eat. That's fantastic. Win-win there. Alex, you still have a few more minutes. Okay,
absolutely.
If you're good with it, we'll just run to a quick commercial break. We'll come back. I do want to talk about New York a little bit, which is sadly getting left out of some of these good times. So we'll run to a quick commercial break. We'll come right back, and we'll get a little bit of a dive into the New York bit license, why the heck that exists, and why it is making life kind of very difficult, I would say, for anyone in New York who wants to be able to use these amazing Bitcoin products. So stay tuned. We'll be back after just a short break, and we will talk about why New York hates Bitcoin.
The future of capital markets runs on Bitcoin. Introducing Roxum, the first ever exchange where Bitcoiners can trade treasury stocks entirely in BTC. Get exposure to top Bitcoin holding companies like MicroStrategy and Metaplanet, priced in Bitcoin from the start. No fiat, no middlemen. This is what financial freedom looks like. Early access now live at rocksum.com/treasuries. Built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
In a world far away. Nah, just kidding. This story begins in this world. It all started in 1460 in Antwerp, when the first commodities exchange was created, but the real transformation came in 1602, when the Amsterdam Stock Exchange was founded. Considered the oldest in the world, it was the first to trade financial assets. Over the years, Britain expanded its colonial and maritime influence, and the British pound sterling overtook the Dutch guilder in the market. Thus, the London Stock Exchange became the financial centre of the world. The 20th century came, and the world got into some trouble. But shortly after World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement established the dollar as the world's primary reserve currency, and the centre of the planet moved to Wall Street. Today, we're travelling at the speed of light towards a new age, an era shaped by the consolidation of Bitcoin as the currency that will define the future of the markets. We present ROCKSTAR, a new Bitcoin-denominated market that allows trading all sorts of securities, commodities, derivatives, options, and anything you can imagine. ROCKSTAR, rock-solid markets.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
Welcome back to the Breaking Bit. I am Walker America. I am here once again with Alex THORN. We have been talking about Bitcoin merchant adoption, the fact that Jack Dorsey's Square just turned on Bitcoin payments or accepting Bitcoin for their 4 million plus merchants. And one of the things that we're about to just get into is the fact that unfortunately in New York, thanks to the Bit license, a long-standing rule set, merchants or a lot of I guess users in New York cannot do this. Thorn, can you work in New York? You've got a long history in New York. You were around when the Bit license, was actually brought into law. Can you just first of all explain what this is and what the actual material impact is for people in New York?
Yeah, so the Bit license is a license required by any business operating in the state of New York that wants to offer crypto-related services to New Yorkers. It was designed in 2014 by a guy named Benjamin Lawsky, who I think it was him. I think people may remember during early hearings about the Winklevoss, or with the Winklevosses on this, he kept calling it Bitcorn. And that's where calling it corn, I think, actually comes from. You can go and look that up, I think. Ben Lawsky. So he was the superintendent of financial services, the New York Department of Financial Services. So in 2014, it was designed. It took effect in 2015. And it's sort of a comprehensive regulatory framework for crypto services in New York. And look, in some ways, it's quite good. I think New York firms have historically been much more stable because they're closely examined. It's one of the most comprehensive regulatory frameworks for Bitcoin and crypto companies. And you need it if you're going to offer crypto services in New York. So many firms also will have a trust license from the New York Department of Financial Services, which would let them be a custodian, but even just like a Bitcoin ATM needs a bit license, right? So, and it's costly, like all compliance regimes, it's costly, and there's a lot of ongoing requirements and compliance that is required. So it's been criticized, I think rightly, one reason, because it creates a big barrier to entry for newer entrants and smaller companies and startups, right? That's why if you look and you can go to the NYDFS, and their websites like nydfs.gov or something like that, or dfs.ny.gov, whatever, you Google it. There's not that many firms that have the license, a couple dozen. It's because it's costly and it's burdensome, right? And so there's many firms. And then, okay, so worse. So Square has the license. They have the bit license. So you can use Cash App and buy Bitcoin in New York. However, the bit license also requires the New York Department of Financial Services to approve all new products. So for example, if you use Coinbase in New York, every coin that Coinbase wants to offer you in the Coinbase app has to be approved by the New York Department of Financial Services. So New Yorkers will know there are far fewer types of coins and crypto assets available to them on Coinbase. Similarly, Cash App, while it has Lightning capability in most of the country, again, that's just Bitcoin. It's fast Bitcoin, right? Lightning service is not available to New Yorkers. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure it's because NYDFS has proactively decided not to allow it, but regardless, they would have to allow it. And similarly, I was asking Miles Suter from Cash App or from Blocks where this map is. We were talking about the map before the break. Cash App apparently has this map where it says, oh, what do I want to do with my Bitcoin? And one of them is spend your Bitcoin, and it brings up a map of the nearby Square merchants that have elected to accept Bitcoin for payment. I couldn't find the map. So I'm like, oh, do I need to update? I was like, where's my map? And Miles was like, oh, the state of New York is protecting you from seeing the map, which suggests that they actually approve whether or not I can see the map, but also they may not be allowing merchants to accept Bitcoin yet on the Square terminals. That's what it sounds like. It's a very, I would say it's burdensome. Look, the way they handle stablecoin regulation has been touted as a model for the country. Some of what they require in terms of collateral quality and redeemability actually informed how the Genius Act was written at the federal level. So it's not that it's all bad, but it's widely regarded in Bitcoin and crypto circles as overly burdensome, like a big, heavy hand government regulation that in practice has absolutely prevented New Yorkers, not just in the city, but the whole state, from receiving, services that everyone else does. I think River, one of my favorite Bitcoin brokerages, not available in New York, right? Needs that license. And we're talking, when I say expensive, I don't know the numbers, but a couple $1 million probably to get that license.
Oh, wow.
Legal fees and ongoing stuff. And for a long time, they didn't approve any new ones. They can be slow. It's I don't know. It's probably the single most burdensome crypto regulatory framework in the United States. And in practice, it keeps Bitcoin products out of the hands of many New Yorkers.
Well, so here's what I guess I can, if I'm, Steel Manning playing devil's advocate here, I can kind of see the rationale for this when it comes to, let's say, listing a bunch of shit coins. I'm not saying that I even agree with that. Like, if people want to buy shit coins, I think they should be able to buy shit coins. That's beside the point. But trying to steel man this, okay, I can sort of see where they were coming from that perspective. But with Bitcoin, obviously this is something different. We're not talking about listing a new coin or enabling a new coin. This is Bitcoin on the Lightning Network is just Bitcoin flowing around the Lightning Network, right? I don't understand the rationale between that still being given that same treatment. I mean, needing there's already, plenty burdensome laws at the federal level. I just don't see that providing any sort of beneficial, any actual beneficial results for either, casual users or for businesses when it comes to, I want to spend Bitcoin and accept Bitcoin and use Bitcoin products. Why hasn't there been a carve out for that, given that Bitcoin is clearly different than the rest of these?
Yeah, a short answer, I don't know. And look, I agree with you. Protecting consumers is what regulators are meant to do. It's not necessarily all bad in that sense.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, look, you're already letting individuals in New York buy and sell Bitcoin, not just on Cash App, but on a variety of other platforms, including Square. Square has this license, right? They should be allowed. I don't understand what the difference is between letting me spend Bitcoin at a merchant or let the merchant effectively buy Bitcoin in the form of goods and services. If the merchant could open a Cash App account and go and buy Bitcoin. So I don't understand the lack of equivalency here and why Square apparently is unable to, at the moment at least, offer these services in New York. I think one thing that might happen with this crypto market structure bill that's being debated at the federal level would be statewide preemption, right? So like if whatever rules get put in place for, now I don't know that that this is parity, like letting Square like offer merchant payments in Bitcoin is covered in the crypto market structure bills that are being debated, but a lot of people want that to have federal preemption so that states don't keep doing these individual random things. It's builders and startups and Bitcoin service providers that want that preemption so that there's not this thing where like, if I take the ferry right across the river to New Jersey, all of a sudden it's fine. But if I'm standing in lower Manhattan, all of a sudden I can buy Bitcoin, but I can't send it. Like it's very bizarre, incongruous, if you ask me.
I mean, it seems to be just like one of these really prime examples of the legal cycle being just necessarily far behind the technological cycle, right? And I don't know, I'm not familiar with the deep history of this, some of the stuff you hinted at in terms of what these key players were, what other motivations there may have been for doing these sorts of things, what sort of regulatory moats some of these big players were trying to put into effect to basically, actively make it smaller or make it more difficult for smaller players. I don't know, but it just generally seems like, New York is allegedly the financial capital of the world, but to have such stifling regulations with something that seems to have generally pretty darn broad support, it just seems crazy to me. Like, why shoot yourselves in the foot? Why make the things more difficult for your citizens when this is allowed everywhere else? And it's just like it's not anything crazy. We're just talking about like this is just Bitcoin, guys. I don't know.
I agree. I hope that'll change. I'm sure. I think that I saw on X.com, because one of the other things that in the regulatory space that this has sort of raised is the de minimis tax exemption. And so I don't know if they'll be doing this in New York about the bit license, but I saw that some folks from Square say on X.com that I think there'll be a big ad campaign in DC from them about the de minimis exemption. Maybe they can also change this, right? The de minimis exemption being that we don't just have to buy and spend so that we don't incur any tax changes if the market price of Bitcoin, oscillates in between when I purchase it and when I spend it, but maybe like a safe harbor, like if you spend less than $500, then you would not be subject to capital gains tax, right? And that I think is a decently important component here to really letting the merchant unlock be a gas on the fire of MOE adoption for Bitcoin, in addition to them accepting it in the first place. Hopefully Square will get active on this, not just the de minimis exemption at the federal level, but also in New York. I mean, getting the bit license to recognize that look, even Lightning, I can understand. Okay, they're like, okay, well, we understand the blockchain, but like this is a technically different thing, and whether or not they should be evaluating the underlying technology at that specific level, they've clearly decided to. But dude, like merchants accepting Bitcoins, like it's even less risky than them buying it. Like, and they're allowed to buy it, so like it doesn't make any sense.
No, it is just kind of crazy. And again, it's like one of those things where maybe with enough pressure from some of these bigger players, from Square, Block, just enough pressure from on social from Jack Dorsey and some of these big players. You've also seen folks like Senator Cynthia Lummis. She's been incredibly vocal about, hey, let's get this de minimis tax exemption in there. I'm of the opinion, like, let's just get a full tax exemption in there, but I think that's a bridge too far for now. But it is nice to see advocates like Senator Lummis, who have been vocal proponents of this, saying, look, come on, this is just kind of common sense. Let's enable this. If we want to be a leader in this new and emerging field, which I think, you and I, and clearly Senator Lummis and Jack Dorsey and, every toxic maximalist out there agrees, like, this is something that is going to completely change the fabric of our society going forward. It already is. Why wouldn't you want the United States of America, and why wouldn't New York City, which has been a financial hub in the world, want to be a leader in this? Not a follower, not the ones who are gatekeeping, but instead to kind of take the brakes off a little bit and say, okay, like let's see what America can really do with this. Like, this is what America does, right? Why not let Americans just run with it? And
they already do ongoing examinations. They have strict rules for how the businesses are formed and like how they manage risk and stuff. Okay, so we're just saying, like, can you move a little faster, and can you recognize that an apple's an apple when that's the case, right? Like, receiving Bitcoin for goods and services is not materially different than the merchant receiving fiat and 1 second later using it to buy Bitcoin. Like, it's just an extra step. It doesn't make any sense, right? So, look, New York's bit license has been a decent marker, and I think especially in the early days, it actually was quite good for adoption. I mean, this thing went live in 2015 when half the world was thinking Bitcoin was only for crime, and Bitcoin had a pretty bad reputation then. And this was actually credentializing, expensive though it was and is, and burdensome though it is. It was nonetheless a positive. I mean, New York did kind of lead the way with this, but that was 10 years ago. And I think at this point, they've kind of fallen behind a little bit in how they think about the risks of businesses accepting Bitcoin or operating on a Bitcoin standard. It's not, I mean, this is what we're talking about. It's not a crazy ask. I'm not saying let through every company that wants to do crypto stuff, or any type of crypto stuff, right? We're not saying, let people borrow off their crypto assets on Aave and then lend the receipt token to buy clothes at a Lululemon. Okay. Like, we're not talking about like crazy leverage or anything like that. Right. And this is pretty straightforward, and I feel like it needs some updating. This is not a controversial opinion. People have been saying the bit license was overly burdensome, too slow, a hindrance to innovation for years. So, like, I don't know, maybe this is the latest outrage as a New York consumer that I have about my ability to access Bitcoin services. But now maybe with Jack Dorsey and blocks behind it, we can maybe there'll be some more traction. I don't know. I don't know if there will be, but yes, it's unfortunate. It's just unfortunate. New York, a hub for capitalism, for markets, for financial innovation. Like, it again, I praise the Department of Financial Services for the sort of being first to come out with a proactive, consumer safety focused regulation framework that has worked broadly, I would say, insofar as it's done some job at keeping consumers safe, right? And setting a high bar for risk management at firms that have the license and endure the ongoing examinations and compliance requirements. But it's time to realize that it's 2025, almost 2026, and get with the program a little bit more. And again, it's an ebb and flow. Let's ebb a little bit into the innovation, or let's flow a little into the innovation. I don't know which one. Flow, I think, is good. And ebb is bad.
Maybe we'll have the regulations do some ebbing so that the capitalism can do some flowing.
Exactly. I love that.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. And it just seems like, I mean, I hope that sometimes, let's say like the Trump administration being very vocally pro Bitcoin, I think often does some harm on it shouldn't do harm, right? Like, this should be a nonpartisan issue, both sides. And I think we're starting to see that both sides are realizing, even the Democrats are realizing, look, this thing's not going away. This is something that we should support. This is something that is just an overall, like, undeniable good for the people of the United States of America. Like, you by cutting your citizens off from this, or by being anti-Bitcoin, you are only hurting yourself. You're only hurting your constituents. But obviously, partisan politics still plays a role. And, if one side says, well, I think puppies are really adorable, the other side's going to say, well, you know what, I actually think they're ugly.
I think they're liable to. Yeah, they're liable to. Yeah. No, I think there's an aspect to that. I mean, increasingly now, I mean, in this environment, I think that's right. They don't want to be seen as supporting a key issue that the Trump administration champions. I mean, I get that. It's there, and honestly, that's somewhat reasonable, right? I mean, it's not the entire Democratic Party. You've got, for example, 10 to 12 senators in the U.S. Senate who appear ready to do a deal and vote with Republicans on some form of a federal legislation that codifies a lot of this. And by the way, there are things Bitcoiners really care about in that proposed legislation. Excuse me. One, developer protections, right? Like the people that develop non-custodial software, like wallets that where they don't take custody of user funds, they shouldn't be regulated like a bank, right? That's pretty straightforward. We all agree with that. And both parties kind of agree with that, right? But also something like what about if it's a non-custodial application, right? And in sort of crypto land, this makes a lot of sense when you think about DeFi and if it's truly decentralized DeFi. But think about the Lightning Network. There's been questions about whether a Lightning routing node was operating as a money transmitter, which is the core question, right? Like, for these DeFi non-custodial apps, are they money transmitters? If they're money transmitters, they have to know all their customers, do AML stuff, register at FinCEN, and perform the activities under the BSA, the Bank Secrecy Act. Well, the Lightning node may route transactions, but it's incapable of absconding with them, right? It is non-custodial, so it shouldn't. Coin Center did great work on this, published a piece like, I don't know, 5 years ago or more, saying Lightning Network routing nodes are not money transmitters by definition. There are negotiations about getting a good such protection in there. Things like the right to protect, the protection of the right to self-custody. These are things that are on the table at the federal level. That would also be good for Bitcoin payments and Lightning and merchant acceptance of Bitcoin, even in New York. And so there is bright light here. I don't know about New York. I'm not that clued into like New York Department of Financial Services politics. But again, like it's just, something's got to give.
Yeah. And I hope that we start to see a bit of a shift in this perspective, because again, I think it's one of those examples where you mentioned, I don't know, using Aave or one of these other networks and doing some crazy, token swap, whatever. Like we're not talking about any of that. We're not talking about any of these, and any of these kind of like ridiculous, quote DeFi products that are really, decentralized in name only. We're just talking about Bitcoin. And I think this is another great example of why Bitcoin education and advocacy is so important. It is so important to, it may be obvious to us, to Bitcoiners, that look, Bitcoin and crypto are fundamentally different. But it is clearly not obvious. It's non-obvious to the overwhelming majority of the population, one, and the overwhelming majority of regulators, two. And you know this because you can, on the regulator side, you can hear the language that they use. It still gets lumped in. You're starting to see maybe a little bit more of a separation. Again, folks like Senator Lummis make that separation very clear. But if you go and talk to the average person, you ask them, what do you know about Bitcoin? Like they will probably bring up some other, oh yeah, I bought Dogecoin once, like that's Bitcoin, right? And I know Sam Bankman-Fried was the one running Bitcoin, right? And you're like, okay, God, we have a lot of work to do on the education side.
Yeah, it's so true. And look, I mean, the terminology in Washington is still very much digital assets. That's the broad term. It includes Bitcoin in policy world. But I would say organizations like the Bitcoin Policy Institute have done a lot of good work in DC to educate on the difference. And one thing I love about what they do is they have a very positive message. They're not out here saying everything else is bad or here's all the bad things going on. They just spend a lot of time and effort educating on the difference between the two and saying, we're here to promote Bitcoin and explain Bitcoin. And I think once people understand that it's not just the reality of the technology or the design or sort of the impetus or the goals of Bitcoin that are different than other cryptos. It's also, what was I going to say? It's also the way they work, and it's the overall adoption, the community, right? Like the community, once they start hearing about Bitcoin only or Bitcoin specifically, they realize, wait a second, when I see people on the street, my constituents, if I'm a representative, and they say they love Bitcoin, they mean Bitcoin specifically, right? Like, and there's a huge community of people that mean Bitcoin specifically, right? And that, I think people have realized, can be its own voting block. And there's been, like I said, I got to praise the BPI, not the Bank Policy Institute, the good BPI. That's the Bitcoin Policy Institute, for being good advocates on this issue.
Yeah. Shout out to everyone at BPI. They do a fantastic job. And it is just really necessary. I've said this to a lot of the folks at the Bitcoin Policy Institute. I would rather have a government full of Senator Lummises than Senator Warrens at the end of the day. It's like, correct, Bitcoin doesn't care, about politicians, right? But politicians do care about Bitcoin. You don't care about politics. Politics cares about you.
Yeah.
We do need this engagement at that level. And I'm glad that we have people doing it, and very based people doing it, who want what is best for Bitcoin and Bitcoin only. And I think that's the message, that you have to lead with, is like, look, this thing is different. This thing is in a league of its own, should be treated as such. And ultimately, this is something that is a overwhelming good for America, for the citizens of America, for the companies of America. This is a good thing that you should support. And I think we're seeing more and more of that. Shout out to BPI. They're doing a fantastic job. Thorn, I know you've got to head out here in a second. Thank you for taking this time. Anything else you want to leave folks with, or just any other closing thoughts, or places that you are excited to go spend your Bitcoin, perhaps?
Yeah, well, I am excited to spend it at PubKey NYC. Always am. But I've heard a rumor that PubKey is opening a new restaurant in Washington, D.C. I don't know exactly when that will be, but I'm hoping we can get some senators and representatives, or maybe even federal government officials, to buy some drinks with Bitcoin and see how easy it is. And look, I would just say you made a great point at the end there, Walker. I love how people are focused on Bitcoin and passionate about it, but the idea that you can just stack sats and then go away for the rest of your life and not care about what happens in the world, I fundamentally disagree with. History is written by those who show up. Decisions matter. I don't believe in cynicism or nihilism. I believe in getting out there, fighting the fight, advocating for what you believe in. And everyone should do that, by the way, not just on Bitcoin, anything you believe in. You only have one life. So shout out to BPI for being those strong advocates, David and Grant, and now Connor Brown. Well, I know he's the new executive director or head of strategy, something at BPI. Mills and Steven and all their interns, they make some cracked edits, those guys, but I really love that they put their sort of Bitcoin where their mouth is, and they're out there standing up for it, and it is worth it. Okay, you can be nihilistic or upset with politics, I get that, but things do change. You just have to change them yourself and band up with others who want to see change in the world.
Amen to that. That is a great note to end on. And I got to say, I still haven't I still haven't been to PubKey. I've only been to PubKey pop-up events so far. So I need to make it.
You haven't just been though. You were you and your wife were quite excellent performers at that PubKey pop-up in Vegas. I hope we get to see that again. I love that bit you guys did about a married couple, one is fiat and one, or first dating, I think later married, maybe get into a fight about fiat and Bitcoin. I don't know if I think there's a video of it. People should check that out. It was very funny. I was there, so you got to come to the real PubKey, Walker.
Got to do the real thing. Maybe we can do a dramatic reenactment at the real PubKey. That would be something.
Absolutely, they would love.
Looking forward to it. But hey, Thorn, thank you so much. Been great having you here. We're going to be right back. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. We've got a great show coming up for you here the rest of the time. So stay tuned. Alex Thorn, thank you so much. I hope we'll be seeing you again very soon.
Thank you, Walker.
All right, don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
The future of capital markets runs on Bitcoin. Introducing Roxum, the first ever exchange where Bitcoiners can trade treasury stocks entirely in BTC. Get exposure to top Bitcoin holding companies like MicroStrategy and Metaplanet, priced in Bitcoin from the start. No fiat, no middlemen. This is what financial freedom looks like. Early access now live at roxum.com/treasuries. Built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy. Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
In a world far away. Nah, just kidding. This story begins in this world. It all started in 1460 in Antwerp, when the first commodities exchange was created, but the real transformation came in 1602, when the Amsterdam Stock Exchange was founded. Considered the oldest in the world, it was the first to trade financial assets. Over the years, Britain expanded its colonial and maritime influence, and the British pound sterling overtook the Dutch guilder in the market. Thus, the London Stock Exchange became the financial centre of the world. The 20th century came, and the world got into some trouble. But shortly after World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement established the dollar as the world's primary reserve currency, and the center of the planet moved to Wall Street. Today, we're traveling at the speed of light towards a new age, an era shaped by the consolidation of Bitcoin as the currency that will define the future of the markets. We present Roxum, a new Bitcoin-denominated market that allows trading all sorts of securities, commodities, derivatives, options, and anything you can imagine. Roxum, rock-solid markets.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
Welcome back to the Breaking Bit. My name is Walker America. We just had Alex Thorn, the head of research at Galaxy, on for the last hour. Thank you, Alex. We were talking about merchant adoption, specifically that Square, Jack Dorsey's Square, underneath the Block umbrella, has recently enabled, just as of yesterday, I believe, the acceptance of Bitcoin payments for their 4 million plus merchants, which is just a fantastic thing that they've done. I encourage people to spend Bitcoin as much as possible. You can always replace it. There's no problem there. We've got a great show for the rest of the time here today for you. I'm here with you for another 2 hours. Lucky you, lucky me. We have a few different people coming on who you may know. Coming up in about 25 minutes, we have MILJAN. MILJAN is the founder of PRIMAL, primal.net. It is a Nostr client. It's also a built-in Bitcoin wallet. You may have seen some of their posts going around, specifically spending Bitcoin from their PRIMAL wallets on Square terminals. I'm going to be talking more about Bitcoin medium of exchange adoption and what that looks like both for merchants and for plebs who are using protocols like Nostr. And then we have to close out for the last hour, we have Rockstar Dev, Uncle Rockstar Dev, and Derek Ross, both pretty prolific Nostr users and medium of exchange advocates. Rockstar Dev famously having done a ton of work on BTC Pay server and a lot of advocacy for using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. So we're going to have both of those or all three of those guys up here over the course of the show. Really looking forward to it. In the meantime, we have a couple of minutes in between, and it is just me here. So what I wanted to talk about a little bit as this conversation started out about Bitcoin medium of exchange adoption, I wanted to talk a little bit about why that's so important, because I think sometimes this gets lost. It's very easy to think, okay, Bitcoin is a great store of value, right? And it is. Of course, it needs to be a store of value. It needs to be a store of value first. It needs to be somewhere that people want to park the value of their time and energy, park their wealth, in order for it to be widely adopted, right? That old saying, the future is here, it's just not evenly distributed yet. I believe that actually applies to Bitcoin adoption, because the first way that most people adopt Bitcoin, and I'll add a caveat to this a little bit later, the first way that most people adopt Bitcoin is as a store of value, right? They're buying it because they know it will preserve their purchasing power long into the future, certainly better than fiat currency, which is constantly destroying your purchasing power, and better than any other investment that they could make, better than real estate, better than stocks, better than gold. Yes, even though gold's been on a bit of a tear recently, certainly better than silver. I'm not sure why anyone buys that as a store of value in the year 2025, but that is beside the point. But the moral of the story here is that that's the way that most people are introduced to Bitcoin, is through the store of value narrative. And it is a strong one, and it needs to be a strong one. The other side of this is and the caveat here is that there were a lot of people in the early days of Bitcoin who did get onboarded to Bitcoin specifically for its utility value as a medium of exchange, as a network. For example, during the Silk Road days, people weren't going on the Silk Road to buy Bitcoin to save it, use it as their savings technology. They were going on there to buy other goods and services, to use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, because it was the only way that you could pay for things, pay for goods and services on the Silk Road. So they weren't, again, using it as a savings technology. For them, that might have come around later. They were just specifically using it to be able to buy and sell things. That's really powerful, right? But we still see that sort of disparity a lot today. Throughout much of the global south and the developing world, we see Bitcoin being used as a medium of exchange with much higher adoption rates for MOE than we do here in the so-called developed world. In the United States, for example, in Western Europe, you generally tend to see places where there is a lot less access to stable banking. You see Bitcoin adoption as a medium of exchange be much, much higher. That makes sense, right? In the United States, yes, our fiat currency sucks, but let's be honest, it's the best of the worst, right? It's the skinniest kid at fat camp. It's the prettiest horse at the glue factory. The US dollar is still the global reserve currency. We have access to a relatively stable banking system here in the US. Luckily, anytime it's unstable, it just gets bailed out with our tax dollars anyway. So huzzah, you get debased, but at least the big bankers still get to give themselves massive, massive bonuses. That's fantastic, right? Not really. But moral of the story is that we are very financially privileged with the system that we have here in the US and throughout much of the Western world. Most of the world does not have access to this. Most of the world does not have access to the US banking system or a stable banking system of any kind, or even a bank, right? They're using cash, often in a local currency that it could be devalued by 50% overnight. That's not ideal. And that's why you see them turning to Bitcoin. That's a really powerful thing. That's necessity driving the adoption there, right? In the United States, when it comes to medium of exchange adoption, even with Square, with this big announcement, turning on these 4+ million merchants, people who go and spend Bitcoin in the United States today aren't doing it because they have no other options. They're doing it because they want to spend Bitcoin, because they want to contribute to the Bitcoin medium of exchange adoption, because they want to spend some sats. And yes, you can replace them right away before or after you go out. Not a big deal there, guys. I'm not telling you to dive into your cold storage. Just keep a few sats in a Lightning wallet and spend them occasionally. It's a lot of fun. You can do it. You can do it on Nostr at any time, actually, which is fantastic. We'll get into that in a little bit with MILJAN coming up here next. But we're not spending sats in the United States because we need to. We have access to credit cards. We have access to debit cards. We have access to a stable banking system. We can do all of those things. Now, Bitcoin does, however, remove a lot of friction for merchants. I mean, we talked about with Alex THORN just before this, is the fact that right now merchants can pay usually around 3%, sometimes a little less, sometimes more, for credit card fees. That's incredibly, incredibly destructive to the margins of any small business. The big players, the Walmarts, very large retailers, they typically have sweetheart deals negotiated with these credit card companies where they are able to get much lower credit card processing rates than can any mom and pop shop. And that is super hard for these mom and pop shops. How are they supposed to compete? Their margins are already thin. And then you're taking away a big chunk of that margin just because they don't have the negotiating power, the volume to be able to say, hey, knock down my fees a little bit. So being able to use Bitcoin now on Square with basically zero, I believe they have 0% fees until maybe 2028, something like that. That's massive. You're saving 3% over credit card fees, and being able to save a little bit of that Bitcoin, not only to use it as a medium of exchange to drive new customers into your business. Bitcoiners are great customers. They want to spend their Bitcoin, right? And they will advocate and evangelize for your business. If you accept Bitcoin, they will talk about you online. That's great free marketing. But you can then take that, use that medium of exchange experience, and then start slowly learning about Bitcoin. Start realizing, wow, what is this Bitcoin thing all about? Maybe I should save a little bit of my excess profits. Maybe I should save them in Bitcoin, and you'll start to see those profits grow, especially over a 4-year time frame, right? So that is all to say that spending Bitcoin is a very, very good thing. You can do whatever you want with your money. I'm not here to tell you what to do, right? I personally enjoy spending Bitcoin every chance I get, whether that's in person at conferences or when I go to El Salvador, I spend Bitcoin everywhere I possibly can. Or spending it online, ordering recently ordered a cool custom or limited edition necklace from Madex. He's an incredible Bitcoin artist, and you know what? I spent sats on it because why not? I prefer receiving sats whenever I can for anything that I'm doing. It's a wonderful thing to be able to use this money of the future, use it in a meaningful way, and do your own small part to drive adoption. Now, a lot of people say, well, remember the guy who spent 10,000 Bitcoin on a couple of pizzas, and that's worth an ungodly billions of dollars today. It's like, yeah, but you know what? Bitcoin doesn't get to where it is today without people like Laszlo spending Bitcoin on pizza, or people like Marty Malmy spending Bitcoin to buy an apartment. Bitcoin doesn't get to where it is now without those early pioneers who are actively using Bitcoin as money. And money has multiple functions, right? Like you can use it as a store of value. That's still using Bitcoin, right? I'm not trying to say that it's not. I use Bitcoin as a store of value. It's my savings technology. I also use it as a medium of exchange because I want to and because I can and because honestly, it just works better. And then I also use Bitcoin as my unit of account, right? That's how I denominate my wealth. That's how I denominate my income, because otherwise I'm measuring it with a fiat measuring stick that is notoriously bad. It's a stretchy, flexible measuring stick that just does not work very well for measuring your absolutely finite time and energy that you can expend on this planet. So again, this is all to say that if you have the opportunity, I highly encourage you to use Bitcoin, really use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. If you've never used a Lightning wallet, go ahead and try. There's so many different options that are available now. Yes, a lot of them are custodial. Yes, there are risks associated with that. You shouldn't put your life savings in a custodial wallet, period. Shouldn't keep your life savings on an exchange either. You should get it off the exchange and in your own self-custody. But for small amounts, for everyday purchases, a custodial Lightning wallet works incredibly, incredibly well. So if you haven't tried this out, there are so many. Like, there are literally dozens and dozens now. It's an amazing landscape that's developing. I think it's really heartening to see this. If you haven't tried spending sats, period, ever, I encourage you to check out Nostr. It's a great way to be able to spend and receive sats. It's an open protocol for communication, notes, and other stuff transmitted by relays. It's primarily right now being used for social media applications. It will be used for a lot more. But Nostr is a great way to experience what it's like to use Bitcoin on a daily basis. I send and receive sats every single day on Nostr. I use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange to give value for value every single day on Nostr. This is really cool. You should try it. It's fun. You can shitpost. You can post a great meme and get zapped sats for it. People will zap you small little fractions of a Bitcoin. They will zap you sats for your shit posts. That is incredible. You can get zapped the hardest money that humanity has ever discovered just for posting a really dank meme. That's a pretty incredible thing. And it's a great example of how this technology works so well. Like, for people that are out there saying Lightning doesn't work or Lightning's not Bitcoin, I'm not sure when this is kind of like a shitcoiner narrative, I guess, but it's recently reemerged, and maybe even I've seen some alleged Bitcoiners saying this. I don't really know why. There's too much drama to keep up with. But to those people, I would say, just go use it. Like, you're only saying that because you haven't used Lightning. Clearly, if you had used Lightning, you would understand that Lightning works very well. Yes, a lot of it's custodial. That's okay. There are going to be trade-offs as you get layers away from Bitcoin's layer 1 blockchain. That's how it works. You don't sacrifice for decentralization or security at the base layer, at the layer 1. You do make some sacrifices and trade-offs for those things at the other layers, right? That's how it works. That's what Bitcoin, when Bitcoin's described as layered money, that's what that means. It means trade-offs at these different levels. The other thing is, I think it's really important for people to use Bitcoin and as a medium of exchange for another reason, which is overall privacy. Like, the more people that are using Bitcoin, the more coins that are sloshing around and getting mixed up between different people's wallets, sent and received, the more connections that you have with other people spending Bitcoin, whether that be in a non-custodial way, whether you're doing it just truly peer-to-peer, or if you're using a custodial solution. Either way, spending Bitcoin is good for all Bitcoiners, right? It helps to just increase that anonymity or pseudonymity set that we have with Bitcoin. And you may say, well, why do you need privacy if you have nothing to hide, right? That old trope. And there's a great quote by Edward Snowden in response to that question, where he says, arguing that you don't care about the right to privacy because you have nothing to hide is no different than saying you don't care about free speech because you have nothing to say. And I think that this is just such a really brilliant and informative quote. If this doesn't jump out at you as being very poignant, you may want to rethink things a little bit. But it's important because the freedom to transact is the base layer of all our other freedoms. The freedom to transact is so incredibly important. And I think that people forget that. They think, well, if Bitcoin is just used as a medium or as a store of value, that's fine. That's enough. I just need Bitcoin to be perfect, sound money, pristine capital. And that's enough. We don't need it to be a medium of exchange as well. That's just not necessary. Fiat works just fine for that. To those people, I'd say, man, you need to get back to first principles and rethink your priors a little bit. And because if you don't have the freedom to transact, which Bitcoin allows you to have, Bitcoin gives you that freedom to transact. The government can't give you freedoms. I'd like to maybe take a quick sidestep here. The government cannot give you any freedoms at all. The government can protect the freedoms that you have taken for yourself. The government can also try to take away your freedoms, but they can't give you freedoms. You're already free, right? The government is there just specifically to enforce the law. And the purpose of the law is to organize for the collective defense of private property. That's why the law is there. The government, the state, only exists, or it should only exist, to enforce that law. So the government should only exist to organize for your collective defense of all of our private property. Alas, the government has become insanely bloated. The state has become rather Orwellian in nature, specifically in George Orwell's home country of England. Sadly, we won't get into that, but I think it's important to point out that if the state controls your money, the state controls you. If they can control where you are allowed to spend your money, who you are allowed to send money to, if they can control your freedom, they can obstruct your freedom to transact, which they can do very easily in the fiat world, right? They can do that very easily in the fiat world. If they can restrict that freedom to transact, then how do you exercise your other freedoms? How do you speak freely? How do you make your voice heard on the internet if you've been shut off from accessing the internet because you can't pay for it because you don't have access to any money? How can you go and protest the state if you can't even pay for a plane ticket or a bus ticket out there? And you don't have George Soros's money sloshing around to pay for your plane ticket or bus ticket for you. I digress. You need the freedom to transact, to take advantage of all the other freedoms that you need to take, right? And that's kind of the beauty of Bitcoin, right? Is that you have that freedom to, and you can do that without a trusted third party. Satoshi in the white paper said the main benefits are lost if a trusted third party is still required. And sadly, the state, the government, has become the greatest trusted third party of all. I don't really trust them whatsoever, but this is the problem. We do not need the world's biggest middleman, the state, interfering with our right to transact freely. But again, like, rights are not given by the state. They are taken. They are taken by you. They're taken by individuals. So go take your rights. Go exercise your rights. Go spend Bitcoin. The state cannot stop you. You're not a terrorist. You're not a criminal. The state treats you as both, but you're not. And clearly they've already made a point that they will jail open source developers for writing code that they don't like because it applies to their archaic money transmitter laws, right? Again, the purpose of the state is just to enforce the law. That is all that it should be. The purpose of the law, organized for the collective defense of private property. The only purpose of the state should be to protect us from would-be plunderers who would take our private property. But the state has become the greatest plunderer of all. The state has become the one perverting the law to their own ends, this bloated kleptocratic state. So how do you take that power away from the state? By acting, by actually spending Bitcoin, by exercising your freedom to transact. And you can do that in many private ways now with Bitcoin. Like if you earn Bitcoin, or you are exchange goods and services for Bitcoin, and you do that in a totally peer-to-peer way, the state knows nothing about that, right? It's like exchanging cash with somebody. They can do some traces on those coins, but if there's nothing tying your name to those coins, the state has no idea. Non-KYC coins are a great thing if you can come across them. Maybe you can exchange goods or services. Maybe you can mine them. However it may be, that is a very powerful tool, because then the state cannot somehow stop you or say, look, you're not allowed to spend this on that. Now, they couldn't stop you anyway when you're using Bitcoin. That's the whole purpose of Bitcoin, right? Is that you can say, well, fuck the state. I don't care what you say. I'm going to go spend my Bitcoin. But people worry about privacy, right? Especially with all these KYC coins that are floating out there. And that's why it's so powerful that we do have the Lightning Network as well. Lightning does add additional layers of privacy. There's also Chaumian and eCash, whether it's Cashew or Fediment. These add other additional layers of privacy, additional trade-offs as well, additional risks as well. Yes, this isn't for your life savings, but it does allow you to transact with near perfect privacy. So you really need to use these tools. Liquid as well is something that I don't hear a ton of people talking about. Yes, Liquid is a federation, I think of 12 guardians. Yes, there are additional trade-offs there, but you can use Liquid and Bitcoin back and forth, Liquid Bitcoin and Bitcoin, in a very privacy-preserving way. There are lots of ways to do this. So again, I would just encourage you to really use Bitcoin as much as possible, use it in privacy-preserving ways as much as possible, because privacy is ultimately the enemy of the totalitarian state. The totalitarian state cannot exist without total surveillance, right? That's just required. There's another there's another great quote by Assange. This was, I think, it was a 2012 or I think it was 2012 book he wrote. is left to its own trajectory. Within a few years, global civilization will be a postmodern surveillance dystopia from which escape for all but the most skilled individuals will be impossible. In fact, we may already be there. Scary. That's, over a decade ago. He goes on to say, but we discovered something, our one hope against total domination, a hope that with courage, insight, and solidarity we could use to resist a strange property of the physical universe that we live in. The universe believes in encryption. It is easier to encrypt information than it is to decrypt it. Strong cryptography can resist an unlimited application of violence. No amount of coercive force will ever solve a math problem. This is so powerful, right? This is why Bitcoin is incredible, because they cannot take it from you by violence, and they cannot take it from you by force, and they cannot force you to use it in a way that they deem is appropriate. This is why CBDCs are such an Orwellian, totalitarian, dystopian nightmare, right? This is why they want to get rid of physical cash. Like, yeah, fiat's the worst, but physical cash, physical fiat cash is like pretty great, right? You can hand bills back and forth with people. Nobody is any the wiser except the two people in that transaction. That's super powerful. That's why in the EU especially, you see this huge push for the digital euro to get rid of cash or to make cash transactions above a certain amount illegal. They don't like cash for the same reason that they don't like Bitcoin, because they can't stop you from passing a bill back and forth, right? They can't stop you from sending sats back and forth. They can stop you anytime you're using the fiat rails. That can be easily shut off like that. So this is all to say that it is more important now than ever that you actually use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, that you use it at the base layer, that you use it on the layer 2s, the layer 3s, that you use Bitcoin as much as you possibly can. And that you become very good at using these tools, because you will need them, right? You are going to need these tools, and you are going to need tools that preserve your privacy. And there's I'll drop another great quote. This one you probably know from A Cypherpunk's Manifesto by Eric Hughes. Privacy is the power to selectively reveal oneself to the world. And privacy in an open society requires anonymous transaction systems. He goes on, we must defend our own privacy if we expect to have any. What does that mean? That means actually using these tools, guys. This means actually going out of your way to make sure that you understand how to transact in privacy-preserving ways. Yes, Bitcoin's layer 1 time chain is completely transparent and auditable, right? It necessarily must be so for Bitcoin to be what it is. You need that auditability. You need that global auditability. But there are ways to use it very privately. And there are different trade-offs that you can make while using those, but you can do it, right? So I would encourage you to experiment with these things. I would, again, encourage you to use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange as much as possible. It is really important that you do so, because the state, of course, is going to try and make it as burdensome as possible. And they try to discourage you by saying things like, "Oh, well, you need to report that small, $5 transaction for using Bitcoin on your taxes." You don't if you just bought Bitcoin right after you made that transaction, right? Because then it's just it's a complete wash, right? And the wash sale rule doesn't apply to Bitcoin also. So you're good to go. Like, there's no taxable event there at all. You need to use Bitcoin though. Like, you need to actually make sure that you are comfortable using Bitcoin. You need to encourage other people to use Bitcoin, because again, rights are not given, they are taken. We have to take them together. We own the future, but only if we actually use these tools that are available to us. It's incredible that we have these many tools. It's incredible that we have encrypted messaging. It's incredible that we have encrypted money. It's incredible that we have all encrypted communications of all different kinds. We need to use these tools. Like, you are going to want to use Nostr at some, right now you might want to use Nostr. You will need to use Nostr at another point in the future when you get kicked off of every centralized social media platform. You may want to use Bitcoin now, but you will need to use Bitcoin later when you've been cut off from the banking system, right? There's other great technologies out there like Hole Punch and Keat with, direct peer-to-peer, serverless messaging and file transfer. There's White Noise built on Nostr, which is basically utilizing the Signal protocol, but also Nostr relays to be able to send messages completely anonymously in an encrypted fashion and without the dependency on AWS servers that Signal happens to have. I love Signal. I use Signal every day. but it does have that dependency. You did see a lot of outages with Signal when those massive AWS outages were happening. The point here is that, you need to use these technologies. You need to use them actively. You need to encourage others to use them. You need to get good at using them. You need to give feedback to developers who are building these open source tools. Maybe donate to developers if you feel like it. Again, do whatever you want with your money, but you can very easily go on Nostr and zap a dev whose project you like. We're going to be talking about Nostr and medium of exchange adoption a little bit after this. But again, I had a few minutes to myself, so I thought I would rant for you guys. And again, if there's one thing that I can really want to make sure you come away with after this little interlude here, it's that, again, rights are not given by the state. Rights are taken by individuals. We can take them together. You can take them right now. No one can stop you from making a Bitcoin transaction. No one can stop you. No government force, no military force, no army of mercenaries can stop that transaction from going through. That is incredibly powerful. No banker can control it, right? No regulatory body can stop it. They can sanction it. They can threaten you. They can do all these things, but they cannot stop that Bitcoin transaction. And that is so powerful because we have the freedom to transact. Money and state have been separated. They've been separated since the Genesis block. Now, initially that separation was a bit tenuous. It maybe wasn't as strong as it could have been, but it's gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. And now we're at this point where money and state are separated. We just need to keep them that way. And you keep them that way by making sure that you use all of the great sides of Bitcoin. Yeah, use it as a store of value. I know I do. That's my savings technology. But use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange as well. And I challenge you to beyond that, try to denominate your life in Bitcoin. Use Bitcoin as your personal unit of account. Once you start thinking about your life in terms of Bitcoin, your perspective changes, right? And once you start using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange and doing that on a regular basis, normalizing it for yourself, and you don't think of it as, this is going to be, me spending 10,000 sats is going to be the same thing as Laszlo spending 10,000 Bitcoin. It might be. It might be at some point in the future, right? But you can just replace those sats right away. There's no excuse. There is no excuse whatsoever. So thank you guys for listening to the rant. Like I said, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. Then right after, we've got MILJAN. MILJAN is the founder of Primal, primal.net. It is an awesome Nostr client. It is one that I use every single day. It's fantastic. And again, I've been talking about Nostr here a little bit during this last rant. We're going to hear from somebody who's actively building on Nostr. They've got a great Bitcoin wallet built into this as well. And it's a great way to spend sats, receive sats for shit posting, and generally use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, which again, I think is so vitally important. So thanks for listening to this little rant. We're going to go to a very quick commercial break, and then we will be right back with MILJAN, the founder of Primal. Stay tuned.
The future of capital markets runs on Bitcoin. Introducing Roxum, the first ever exchange where Bitcoiners can trade treasury stocks entirely in BTC. Get exposure to top Bitcoin holding companies like MicroStrategy and Metaplanet, priced in Bitcoin from the start. No fiat, no middlemen. This is what financial freedom looks like. Early access now live at roxum.com/treasuries. Built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy. Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
In a world far away. Nah, just kidding. This story begins in this world. It all started in 1460 in Antwerp, when the first commodities exchange was created, but the real transformation came in 1602, when the Amsterdam Stock Exchange was founded. Considered the oldest in the world, it was the first to trade financial assets. Over the years, Britain expanded its colonial and maritime influence, and the British pound sterling overtook the Dutch guilder in the market. Thus, the London Stock Exchange became the financial centre of the world. The 20th century came, and the world got into some trouble. But shortly after World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement established the dollar as the world's primary reserve currency, and the center of the planet moved to Wall Street. Today, we're traveling at the speed of light towards a new age, an era shaped by the consolidation of Bitcoin as the currency that will define the future of the markets. We present ROCKSTAR, a new Bitcoin-denominated market that allows trading all sorts of securities, commodities, derivatives, options, and anything you can imagine. ROCKSTAR, rock-solid markets.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
Welcome back to the Breaking Bit. I am Walker America. I am joined now by MILJAN. MILJAN is the founder of PRIMAL. You can find him at primal.net or Primal on the App Store. It is a Nostr client, a Nostr application that allows you to not only use Nostr, but also has a built-in Bitcoin wallet. So I thought MILJAN would be the perfect person to talk about Bitcoin medium of exchange adoption here today. MILJAN, how you doing, man?
Doing great, sir. I don't have my good mic today. How's my sound?
You sound great. You're coming through loud and clear.
Awesome.
Well, good to have you here. So you guys, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is at Primal, you do a ton of really great kind of Bitcoin IRL type content, you know, really encouraging people not just to use Nostr, but also to use Bitcoin, to spend Bitcoin, to use that integrated Primal wallet, to use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange out there in the real world. So, I mean, you must have loved seeing this this announcement yesterday that finally with the release to 4 million plus merchants from Jack Dorsey's Square. To me, this was just a huge moment for Bitcoin medium of exchange adoption. How are you guys looking at this from Primal's lens?
Yeah, I think this is a big deal for Bitcoin in general because, of course, we need to bootstrap this network as an everyday payments network. Bitcoin so far has been mostly a kind of store of value, a speculative store of value. It's a digital commodity that's kind of monetizing in real time. And everyday payments need to be a part of it at some point. So over at Nostr, Primal and a bunch of other builders have been, using Bitcoin as payments on a daily basis for a couple of years now. We really at Nostr, we kind of bootstrapped Bitcoin micropayments at scale for the first time. So I think that was a major accomplishment for the network. But yeah, being able to use Bitcoin for everyday payments is a massive deal. I think in the long run, Bitcoin either succeeds as money or fails altogether. I think that's what a lot of paper Bitcoin summer people don't maybe realize is that, if we don't make transactions, especially on-chain transactions, in the long run, Bitcoin loses its security properties. In the long run, miners as the block reward gets halved in terms of new Bitcoin issuance every 4 years, miners increasingly need to be compensated by transaction fees. And over the years, we've seen those kind of transaction fees spike on occasion here and there, but then basically go back to almost nothing, like the mempools aren't anywhere near full. And by the way, part of the reason for this is success of Lightning as a second layer kind of payments network and all of that. So all of that is working as expected. But I think we need to, increase the amount of usage of Bitcoin as the kind of daily payments network by many orders of magnitude, which I'm certain we can. And this milestone where millions of merchants have the ability to accept Bitcoin is massive. And from Primal side, we want to lean into it. As you mentioned previously, we've been running this hashtag real life Bitcoin campaign now for a couple of years, where we wanted to kind of show how our wallet can be used in real life scenarios where, a lot of our users get zapped on Nostr for posting some funny or profound content. And there's something magical about being able to go ahead and spend that money, buy a beer, buy coffee or lunch, whatever, within the same app without any friction. We've been sourcing these videos from our users all over the world, and many of them come from Costa Rica and other kind of exotic places, and not many in the Western world. So looking forward to kind of seeing a change there with this big announcement from Square.
Yeah, it really is interesting. This is something I was just ranting about solo here before you hopped on. This idea that in the, let's say, the global South or the so-called a developing world, you see a lot more medium of exchange Bitcoin adoption because their existing fiat rails are really, really bad or non-existent. Maybe they don't have a bank account at all. They don't have a credit card, a debit card, nothing like this. And so out of necessity, you see this adoption. In the West, the so-called developed world, yeah, we have fiat. Fiat's terrible, but our systems work pretty well relative to much of the world, right? Where it's a very privileged position to be in. And so you don't see as much of that medium of exchange narrative. You see it much, or usage. You see it much more on the store of value side. But I'm in agreement with you that if we don't use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, then Bitcoin is not reaching its full potential, right? It's not truly succeeding. We need to use it in that way. And so, maybe it's a good time to just talk a little bit about, Nostr generally, because I think that a lot of people, there's been a very strong cohort of people on Nostr, yourself and myself included, who've been using this now for a couple of years, getting paid when you shitpost, right? Getting zapped sats, zapped Bitcoin for shitposting, for memes, for insightful posts, for a live stream, for a picture of your cat, a picture of your food, whatever it might be, a picture of your foot even, whatever it might be. You're seeing this happen.
Many such cases.
Yeah, many such cases. You're seeing this happen on Nostr. And I think that it's really, really powerful for people. Maybe if they don't have other ways that they can spend or receive Bitcoin, maybe they're just buying Bitcoin on an exchange, which is fine. They're never spending it. Nostr to me is a really great onboarding mechanism for people to really see the power of the Lightning Network, see the power of Bitcoin, and to use it just in a very casual, everyday way. I mean, that's a lot of your thesis, right? With building the wallet into your client is, look, you can just send and receive Bitcoin. It doesn't have to be a big deal. This is just part of your social experience. Is that kind of how you guys are framing this to new people who are joining?
Yeah, so that's a fair point that you made a minute ago regarding payments not really being an issue in the West. It's not that we have a problem paying for coffee in the States or Canada or Western Europe or whatnot. That's not the main problem that Bitcoin is trying to solve. The main problem, of course, is taking away the money printer from the government, and we're well on the way there, I think. But for this to be real, there need to be real transactions as well. And there is something about the scenario that you outlined there where you shitpost on a social network like Nostr. You get permissionless payments from a bunch of random plebs all over the world. Micropayments, so they're tiny little, fragments of $1 or whatever. But they add up, and then you're able to do something real with it. That scenario is something that makes this whole experience much more real, even to Western users. And to the extent that they're able to casually go out there and actually spend that Bitcoin without any friction, without having to have an exchange in the middle of all of that and kind of exchange that for fiat and so forth, it it becomes much more real. And I think the factor of it being permissionless, where you don't need these payments networks to, spy on your transactions, number one, but number two, decide whether the transaction can happen or not. That's again, that's not a problem that's been super prevalent in the West. Normally Visa lets us make our payment, but it could get there, and it's kind of crazy that we ended up in this place where we are asking for permission constantly for every little thing. Like I need to get a bottle of water, and then the process is, I as a consumer swipe my card or use my phone to ask some centralized bank or probably like a collection of financial entities along the way, right? Not just one. And each one of them needs to say, yes, okay, yeah, he can get a bottle of water at this merchant. That's just crazy, right? Well, when we had bare assets like, let's say dollar, cash, that's less and less used in real life. You could just, hand over a $5 bill and get a bottle of water. But that's being phased out. That's a certainty. Everywhere in the world, we're going to, unfortunately, end up with digital money. The only question is, what kind of digital money is it going to be? Is it going to be money that's controlled by a government, or money that's controlled by a corporation, or money that's controlled by you, the user? And with Bitcoin, we have the ability to reclaim that bit of sovereignty that really we should have never ceded in the first place.
I love that. And I think that, again, there's this mentality in the Western world that, well, yes, these things happen. These, totalitarian regimes may shut off access to the banking system for people in other parts of the world, or they might punish dissidents or journalists by confiscating or freezing their assets in other parts of the world. But that doesn't happen here, right? That doesn't happen in the West, but it does. It very, very obviously does. Like political opponents were debanked here in the United States. Like the Trump family experienced a lot of this, right? Quite a great deal. This happened in Canada with the trucker protests. This is not just science fiction or something that only happens to other people in other parts of the world. This is something that can happen everywhere, because the rails that we're using, the fiat rails, allow it to happen. And I think that's the thing that people need to get through their heads. It's that, like, you may not think you need this uncensorable, unconfiscatable, unstoppable money. You may not think you need it now. You may not think you need Bitcoin now. Or maybe you realize you need Bitcoin now as a store of value, but you don't think you're going to need to really use it as a medium of exchange. But the day will come when you do, and it would behoove you to be prepared for that. And that's one of the reasons why I love Nostr, is because it's just normalizing using Bitcoin every single day, spending Bitcoin every single day, receiving Bitcoin every single day, and doing it with people you don't ever have to have met in the quote real world. But if you want to take those sats you got from strangers for posting your Pepe the Frog meme and go buy a coffee at with a Square merchant who accepts Bitcoin, you can do that. And I think that's such a powerful thing. And I would really encourage more people to check out Nostr. It's such an easy way for you to get really accustomed to just using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. And to the people who say, well, the Lightning Network doesn't work, or the Lightning Network's not Bitcoin, it's like, have you used it? Because I don't know if you've seen this narrative start to spring up a little bit. I thought it was like a shitcoiner narrative, but now apparently it's making the rounds with Bitcoiners as well. I just don't understand. Like, you're somebody who has built you have a Lightning wallet built into your application. Does Lightning work for you?
Yeah, I've noticed that narrative reemerge. Interesting. Yeah. And Lightning has failed in the sense that everyone's using it all the time. So there might have been some kind of unrealistic bar that's been set for Lightning in the early days, that everyone will be able to use Lightning in a self-custodial manner, billions of people, and permissionlessly and so forth. And that has not played out. And that is not realistic to expect from this protocol at all. Once you do the math with the nodes and on-chain fees required to open and close channels and manage liquidity and so forth. But Lightning has reached an incredible level of success as a permissionless settlement protocol between various kinds of actors, including custodians and including enthusiasts who wish to run Lightning nodes for themselves. So essentially, we have a very well-developed Lightning network that is able to settle any amount of Bitcoin between actors permissionlessly. And then there are a number of enthusiasts that run their own Lightning nodes, manage their own liquidity, and anyone who wants to put in a little bit of work into this is able to use Lightning permissionlessly and in a self-custodial manner. For those who are looking for very quick and easy and hassle-free, frictionless, you install the app and it just works type of experience, there are custodial Lightning solutions, and Primal is an example of one of those. So on Primal, we have a custodial Lightning service that's powered by Strike, and our users are able to get up and running and send and receive transactions right away. And our wallet is one of the most popular kind of daily driver wallets out there as a result, as is Wallet of Satoshi and so forth. Now, there are some very interesting technologies that are on the horizon and they're here in some sense, like the Spark network by LightSpark and the Arc network, which is being developed by a couple of different projects that offer a different set of trade-offs which are very interesting for kind of payments of any size. And even between all of those types of payment protocols, and let's not forget, of course, eCash, with Cashew being the by far the most successful one, but there's also Fedimint. So you have all of this diverse set of technologies that offer various different sets of trade-offs, and all of which are quite relevant for the kind of use case that they are trying to attack. All of them are being connected via the Lightning network. So all of this is people using Bitcoin. And I disagree when people go out and say Lightning is not Bitcoin or Cashew is not Bitcoin. It's just nonsense. All of these people are using Bitcoin, some of them with different trade-offs. And they're able to make transactions and the whole thing works pretty seamlessly. So the core kind of base layer will give you the highest level of security and self-sovereignty. Lightning Network itself is actually pretty up there in terms of security and permissionlessness, even privacy. It's just that it takes work to get up and running and kind of keep it up and running. So it's only for enthusiasts and professionals, let's put it this way. And then there are all these other protocols that basically plug into Lightning and are able to interoperate. So if you decide, let's say, to use a Cashew wallet and someone else is using a Spark wallet, those are different protocols that are connected using the Lightning network. And anyone can, make an on-chain transaction and kind of, have a unilateral exit on-chain at any given time. So this is this is what success looks like. This is Bitcoin and the Lightning network succeeding.
Yeah, it is funny. Whenever I see these criticisms, and I don't know when this recently popped up again, but I just started noticing more people talking about like Lightning isn't Bitcoin and whatnot. I'm like, okay, I guess we're doing this again. First of all, yes, it is Bitcoin. And second of all, it's just so funny because whenever you see these types of criticisms where people saying the Lightning network doesn't work, it's usually one of two reasons. One is what you just described as, okay, Lightning network is not super feasible for mass adoption in a self-custodial way, right? At this time, like that's reality. And yes, there are trade-offs if you use it in a custodial way. Of course, like this is something I always say, like, yeah, if you want uncensorable, unconfiscatable, unstoppable money that cannot be rugged from you, you should use Bitcoin layer 1. Like that's what you should do, right? There are trade-offs at the different layers. And you're trading off, for example, for speed. Like you are getting lightning fast payments, you're making other trade-offs there. But the other reason that I find that people generally say these sorts of silly statements like lightning doesn't work or lightning, it's not actual Bitcoin, which it obviously is that they've just never used it. Like the people that say lightning doesn't work clearly have not used it. Like these custodial solutions, and you can do it in a non-custodial way. If you're a more technical person, like you can absolutely do that. I set up the first lightning node I set up was on a Raspberry Blitz back when I was first getting into Bitcoin, doing it on a little Raspberry Pi and running that Raspberry Blitz software. And it was tricky. Like I had to figure out some command line stuff, which I hadn't done before, but that was also cool, like a little cool project and a learning experience. But I use custodial lightning when I want to use lightning because I'm trading off the security of the Bitcoin base layer. I'm trading that off for the convenience of having lightning fast payments and instant settlement, not having to worry about managing my own channels or anything like that. It's a good experience. And so, yeah, for anybody who is naysaying lightning, I would really encourage them to just actually try it and try it on Nostr if you really don't believe it. Like that to me, seeing even down to 1 sat zaps flying around Nostr. I mean, I prefer getting a little bit of a larger zap, but even getting a 1 sat zap, that's an amazing thing. Like that is a tiny, tiny, tiny little payment that is being sent around at the speed of light. And I mean, to me, that's just like, it's like magic every time that happens. I hope that more people check this out because it really is just like, it's an incredible experience to use Bitcoin and the Lightning Network on Nostr.
Yeah, you can troll somebody with a 1 sat zap.
Yep.
Or you can show support with a more meaningful amount. In either case, this is fun.
Yeah, exactly. And again, yeah, I will take any zap size on Nostr, but sure do prefer the bigger ones. It's also a great way to be able to actively support projects that you care about. A lot of people talk about the importance of open source development, the importance of supporting these projects. But in my mind, it's never been easier to support these developers because you don't have to go and find an address to a Bitcoin on-chain address to send it to or communicate with them in any way. You can just find their npub on Nostr and you can zap them sats, and no one can stop you from doing that. Like that's a really powerful thing, I think, for funding open source development generally. I'd love to get your thoughts as well. So obviously we've seen this block Square announcement now that this is going live. Obviously it's not going to be everyone at once turning this feature on, but they do have up to, I think, a little over 4 million merchants. That is a lot. Do you think this is kind of like a little bit of a watershed moment, like a tipping point for Bitcoin adoption as a medium of exchange, just because this is just like normalizing it? They don't have to do anything else. They don't have to do anything extra. They just have to, turn on a little button on their terminal. Does this feel to you like it's kind of a tipping point? It's a real like inflection point, let's say.
That's a good question. It could be. I don't want to too quickly decide that this is the watershed moment because we need to go back and kind of rewind the tape a little bit and remember what happened last time when something like this was attempted. Years ago, I think it was maybe 2013, there was a big effort to onboard a bunch of merchants to accept Bitcoin. And the effort was successful. People were able to onboard merchants, and merchants did show up and were into accepting Bitcoin payments. However, users didn't show up. Buyers didn't show up in large enough numbers to make things worthwhile for merchants. So while it's amazing that Square is enabling this and there are going to be millions of locations where you can spend Bitcoin, we Bitcoiners need to step up and also do our part in signaling and actually taking advantage of this new opportunity and actually do our part to bootstrap Bitcoin as money. So that's why at Primal we are we are leaning into the real life Bitcoin campaign. We want to show how easy this is and how much fun it is to get paid on Nostr and spend Bitcoin anywhere. So I'm cautiously optimistic in response to your question that this could be the moment. But we, the Bitcoiners, need to show up. And then hopefully new people who get onboarded onto Bitcoin, onto Nostr, they get exposed to a few Bitcoin transactions. And then it makes it much more real for them if they can go and spend at a kind of physical location. I remember like when trying to onboard people over the years, and I'm sure you've had the same experience, many people are not able to think through all the arguments of store of value and controlling the monetary system and all of that. For them, something is real if they can go and spend it at the real location, right? So great. Now we're going to have a bunch of real locations to spend Bitcoin at. Let's do it.
Amen. I can't think of a better note to wrap up this segment on than that, Miljan. I know you've got a hard stop here. I appreciate we ran right up to the time. Again, this is Miljan, founder of Primal. Go check out Primal. Go check out Nostr. You can use any Nostr client. So if you create keys, if you create your own little encrypted username and password on Primal, you can take that to any Nostr client you want. That is the beauty of Nostr. But go check out Primal. Go check out Nostr. Go zap some sats and get zapped sats for your memes and foot pics, and then go spend those sats on coffee and prove all of the haters wrong. Miljan, thank you so much. We're going to come right back here in a moment, right after commercial break. We've got Rockstar Dev and Derek Ross. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for just a couple of minutes during this commercial break. Don't touch that dial. We will be right back.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
In a world far away. Nah, just kidding. This story begins in this world. It all started in 1460 in Antwerp, when the first commodities exchange was created, but the real transformation came in 1602, when the Amsterdam Stock Exchange was founded. Considered the oldest in the world, it was the first to trade financial assets. Over the years, Britain expanded its colonial and maritime influence, and the British pound sterling overtook the Dutch guilder in the market. Thus, the London Stock Exchange became the financial centre of the world. The 20th century came, and the world got into some trouble. But shortly after World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement established the dollar as the world's primary reserve currency, and the centre of the planet moved to Wall Street. Today, we're travelling at the speed of light towards a new age, an era shaped by the consolidation of Bitcoin as the currency that will define the future of the markets. We present ROCKSTAR, a new Bitcoin-denominated market that allows trading all sorts of securities, commodities, derivatives, options, and anything you can imagine. ROCKSTAR, rock-solid markets.
Security matters. Zappo Bank. The only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
Some call me Chicken Little, others Bubble Boy. I'm a bit changed, but sounds familiar, right? Let me tell you a hard truth. The S&P isn't rising, the dollar's falling. That's the trick. Monopoly money. It's ice melting by the second. Your savings, your salary, your time. Worth less every second. Everyone's using the wrong measuring stick. Switch the denominator. Price the S&P into Bitcoin. Hard, fixed, unprintable. Suddenly your unstoppable index, it's collapsing. And while you cling to dollars, well, the street already switched. Before, you needed 2 brokers.
Still getting my ninja bonus though, right?
Fuck. Plenty of spreadsheets. And my quant!
I hate this part.
I was right, and I'll be right again. If I were you, I'd thank me.
You know my name's Dave, right?
Welcome back to the Breaking Bit. I am Walker America. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to welcome to the stage now 2 of my very favorite people, Rockstar Dev and Derek Ross. Guys, how are you doing? Rockstar, that's a sick background you got there.
Well, it's just showing what's happening. So easier, like very graphic for people. Doing well. Glad to see you, Derek.
Yeah, good to see you again, man. It's been it's been a little while, I guess, for both of you. So it's good to be among friends.
Always. And, you know, on an auspicious day, or let's say during an auspicious week, Rockstar, remember you and I were running around Vegas, spending Bitcoin at various merchants, some of which were Square enabled already. And now to see this go live to 4 million merchants now is pretty amazing. So, I mean, you know, as somebody, you've worked on BTC Pay Server, you've worked on a ton of open source projects. You've really been an advocate for Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, like spending sats out there, not just holding them in cold storage and never touching them. How you feeling? Like this is a kind of a big moment, yeah?
Yeah, man, I feel good. I feel very happy, especially for people that have been working on this at Square, Block. You know, it's been something they've developed for quite a while. And in Las Vegas, there was a premiere of that, preview. And people were like, they did such a good job, man, in Las Vegas during the Bitcoin conference. And, then people will still pile like, oh, when is this rolling out to all the merchants? So now, yeah, here it is. And really happy for Square, for Block, for Miles, Jack, everyone that's been pushing this forward. And I love it for the merchants as well, because we got to switch them to better money. And with this, the technology that's out, they just flip a switch and they're stacking sats instead of stacking USD, which is burning unless they invested in S&P 500 or whatever. Not everyone wants to be investor. So happy all around.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, again, the theme of this stream here today has really been just using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange and just why that's so important. Derek, you have been an active user of Nostr and of Bitcoin for quite some time now. I mean, why do you think we're still at this point where a lot of people seem very, very hesitant to try and spend their Bitcoin in any way? Does it come down to, a lot of people will say, well, once it gets better tax treatment and I don't have capital gains, then I'll spend it. But the reality is you can just spend and replace. There's no capital gains event there. It seems like there's a lot of excuses thrown out there. Do you think those excuses are valid, or is it just like maybe people, especially in the so-called Western developed world, are just kind of lazy because things kind of work okay for us right now?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all of that. Right. Like, I think that people don't want, it's kind of psychological at first. They don't want to spend something that they know is going to increase in value over time. They make excuses for doing spend and replace, but I think spend and replace solves that. But, maybe they have an issue with fiat on and off ramps. So they don't want to KYC. They don't want to go through the hassle. I can maybe kind of understand that. And then also, I think part of the problem is certain people in the industry saying, don't spend your Bitcoin and instead spend fiat on pizza on days where we're reminded to spend our Bitcoin. There's all sorts of reasons for people to come up with excuses. But at the end of the day, I think it's just people being lazy and complacent because maybe, sure, like you said, in the Western world, things kind of do work. Maybe they're a little fucked up, but they do work. And, the rest of the world, various places around the world, maybe that isn't the same, right? Maybe it doesn't work as well. Maybe other currencies are better day to day. I think that people should try to spend Bitcoin. I think that, it's worth the struggle. And if we have been saying for 16 years that Bitcoin, or 17 years now, that Bitcoin is money, then we should treat it as money. Otherwise, we're being a hypocrite. So spend your Bitcoin. And I was going to say, on top of that, you mentioned Nostr, and I think the vast majority of people on Nostr get that Bitcoin is money, because on Nostr, we're the largest circular Bitcoin economy in the world by transaction volume. I mean, it might be, 21 sats, that we're sending somebody in these very tiny micro transactions. But in terms of sheer just transaction volume, Nostr is the largest economy out there for spending and using Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think that's something that is often lost, right? There's a lot of Nostr naysayers as well, or people who are perhaps too lazy to actually go and check it out, and maybe had a bad experience once, like a couple of years ago, and now assume that nothing can have changed in that time. But I mean, Rockstar, would you agree with Derek's analysis there, just about overall some of the hesitancy to spend Bitcoin? Like, I love spending Bitcoin. Spending Bitcoin is so fun. Like, I don't understand why more people don't do it.
Well, I mean, it's because you're on a cutting edge of technology, and there are ways to spend Bitcoin easily. Like that's one of the big reasons why I joined Strike, what is now 6 years ago. It initially was to create a way for. Yeah, can you hear me? No?
Yep. Oh, now I can. Now you're good.
Maybe not.
You hear me? Yeah, so what I was saying is, it's because you're on cutting edge, Walker, unlike me with my internet connection. So you have ways to spend Bitcoin, and there are ways to do that. Like, one great example is Strike is an app where you can have dollar balance, and then it's easy to interact with the Bitcoin ecosystem and make purchases. So I think for most people, it's just they're used to credit cards. Credit cards have points. It's simply that learned behavior of customers. But we all know where this is going. Dollar will keep being printed. There will be dollar debasement, and the sooner people switch to Bitcoin, the better it is for them individually. And again, kudos to Square, to Block, for providing technology for people, merchants, to easily switch to better money. And I think it just, everything will follow and everything will fall in place. Because just simply Bitcoin is better money. And the sooner you switch to it, the better your life is. I'm sure you, Walker, can talk about that. I'm sure you, Derek, can talk about how much better your life becomes once you switch over to the Bitcoin standard.
Once you embrace it, right, your life has to improve. It's in the code. It's just math that tells you that over time your life will get better.
Yeah, it really is kind of amazing. Like, this is the thing. I don't fault people for just using Bitcoin as a store of value, because they are still using Bitcoin, right? That is one of the functions of Bitcoin, is to be able to use it as a store of value to protect yourself from debasement. That is a very powerful tool by itself, right? Even if Bitcoin just did that, it would be a really amazing tool. The reason I encourage people to still spend Bitcoin and use it as a medium of exchange is because I think people forget. They think that maybe if it's just a pristine asset, if it's just, sound money, that's enough. But like, they forget that the other part of this is that you need the freedom to transact. You need to be able to send payments without permission to anyone at any time for any reason, and have nobody be able to stop you. Because if you can't do that, your other freedoms, your other liberties are at risk. I mean, would you guys agree with that? I assume you're both of the camp, they're kind of the Jack Dorsey camp that says, look, if Bitcoin isn't used widely as a medium of exchange, it's just not reaching its full potential. It's not fully succeeding. Are you guys both
Absolutely.
on that boat? Yeah.
Absolutely. Like we have all been places together around the world where we're walking down a market and we're buying, fruit, vegetables, beers, anything with Bitcoin. And the people that are in these locations, that are in these markets, in these businesses, they're using Bitcoin as an actual tool. They're using it sure, you said, holding is a use case, and it absolutely is. But people that are using Bitcoin as an actual financial tool to better their lives, whether that be to save for the very first time, to be able to transact peer-to-peer without any intermediaries and having people say, yes, you can start a business, or no, you can't start a business, to be able to just be free in your transactions is a completely wild and different feeling than just saying, hey, I have more sats in cold storage today. Using Bitcoin and seeing the reactions and seeing people improving their lives is what really changes you. Like, we've all traveled to various places, conferences for Bitcoin and Nostr, over the past several years. And I think part of the problem is that people, generally speaking, in the past didn't get to use Bitcoin on a day-to-day basis. It was a novelty for the vast majority of people. You would go to a conference and there'd be some vendors there, or they would travel, far from home, go to a Bitcoin community, and they would spend Bitcoin there. There just wasn't a lot of options. So it was kind of an afterthought. It was, like I said, it was a novelty to spend Bitcoin, and it really shouldn't be. It shouldn't be a novelty. That's why I think it's so huge what Square is doing and what Nostr is doing, allowing people to spend Bitcoin if you want to all day long, make it familiar, make it front and center, and see what its true potential and true power is. And once you experience that, I think that changes you, I think.
And the best part for me, man, is the fact that sats can flow worldwide. And as someone that wasn't born in the US, there was a huge challenge of how do you plug into that economy of the world, and how does money flow from US to wherever you are located. And to me, that's the biggest promise of Bitcoin. When you look at global South, South America, Africa, other places that don't have as good of a financial system as US does, or they're on a currency that depreciates even faster than US dollar. The fact that we can now directly send money to those people through Nostr, say, like MILJAN was here before us. You download Primal, you set up your account, you set up your Lightning wallet, boom, suddenly all other people around the world can send you money, and then you can use that money to purchase things, food, shelter, whatever you need. Man, that's phenomenal. And I don't know, maybe I'm just optimistic guy, and it's something when I look at my own contributions to Bitcoin and Bitcoin as medium of exchange. It's now been over 8 years of coding on FOSS projects like BTC Pay Server, on for-profit projects like Strike. And it's just, when you're right, you also need to have patience. So it is coming. We, of course, still need to keep working, but we need to have patience and let things naturally roll out. So, of course, people will still look at us like craziest. Like look at these Bitcoiners and their magic internet money. But now that bigger companies are joining the fray, I'm sure more and more will actually take time to research why we believe so much in Bitcoin and join the party.
Yeah, and I think that a huge part here is just the normalization of this, right? And beyond that, it's seeing that as a business, no matter what your size, accepting Bitcoin is if nothing else, a great tool for organic marketing. Like we've seen this with Steak and Shake, right? They started, okay, we're only going to do our fries in beef tallow, right? and now we're going to accept Bitcoin. And it's like with those two things, people are like, wow, Steak and Shake, super based. That's awesome. I'd like to go there and buy some beef tallow fries and hamburgers, or maybe a Frisco melt, which are delicious there. And I'd like to pay in Bitcoin. I've done this multiple times now. The experience has been fantastic. And you know what? I've posted about it on social media multiple times. A ton of Bitcoiners have done this. Bitcoiners are excited to spend sats at based businesses. This is a fact. So if you're a business owner and you're like, oh, should I accept Bitcoin? It's like, there's no downside for you. There's no downside for you turning on the ability to accept Bitcoin, especially now that it is so easy with Square. And like, granted, already it was pretty easy, right? But people don't necessarily want to go through the hassle. Now it's just like one button they can turn on. But it's good for your bottom line. Not only are you able to just potentially save in Bitcoin after the fact, that's fantastic, but you're just going to attract a whole new customer base of super excited, terminally online people who want to talk about how excited they are to spend Bitcoin at your business. Like you're just, if you're not accepting Bitcoin, you're honestly just turning down free marketing. I don't know. It seems crazy to me. Like Steak and Shake was just a really great example of that. I thought, I hope we see a lot more businesses realize that and say, oh, okay, Bitcoiners want to spend Bitcoin at businesses that accept it. All right. Well, they like to post about it online. Great. I'll let them, I'll save some money on my marketing budget just by turning on the ability to accept sats. To me, that's just like it's a huge cheat code, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like in the Cash App, you can go in and tap on Bitcoin, tap on spend Bitcoin, and then you see a map where you're locally, where there are Square terminals where you can go and spend Bitcoin. So yesterday when this went live, I was like, I live in a small area. Let's just see if there's anybody here that I haven't gone into and annoyed yet into accepting Bitcoin, right? And I saw that there was a place about a half hour away from me. And I've never been there before, but I'm going there tomorrow. The plan is to go there. They gained a customer just by turning on a toggle, answering a couple questions, and accepting Bitcoin. And I found them in the app, and I'm going to go there tomorrow, and I'm going to give them money. And I probably wouldn't have done that beforehand. Like it's absolutely no brainer, brilliant marketing. Just tap a couple buttons and you're immediately in tune with, thousands and thousands of people in your area. It's a no brainer to grow your business and your brand.
Yeah. And I want to add here that this is something that I've observed again since 2019. Was maybe the first scenario where I saw a business benefit a lot from Bitcoin directly, and it's Cheap Air. Like that was the website cheapair.com that was accepting Bitcoin for airplane tickets. And what they saw was that Bitcoiners as customers are extremely loyal, in a sense that if you have one purchase in Bitcoin of like airplane tickets, hey, that person is going to keep coming back and purchasing tickets there on that website, because back then there wasn't even that many options. So that's another thing I would really encourage merchants to look into and to try, especially if they have presence on X or even better on Oster. Because what you say, Walker, with free marketing, it absolutely is a free marketing. And you can look into Steak and Shake and their quarterly results. Like their same store sales have been skyrocketing simply from doing, accepting Bitcoin. So it's no brainer from my perspective.
There was a business that joined Noster a couple months or maybe like 2 months ago, and they posted on Noster that they're a cafe in upstate New York. And I somehow just a couple weeks ago found one of their posts, and they accept Bitcoin and they're posting on Noster. And I said, you know what? I've done a lot of dumb things in my life out of principle, but driving 4.5 hours just to have lunch is not going to be one of them. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go support them because they're using the networks that I support and champion. And I reached out to several other people on Noster that I know that, you know, are in the Northeast and said, hey, do you want to do something dumb some weekend? You know, do we all want to drive hours and go support this business just to say we did, just because they're supporting our ecosystem? Let's go support them. And everyone I talk to is interested in it. We just need to organize it and do it. So in short, I guess it's yes. You know, there's a joke from years ago that Bitcoiners are psychopaths. Absolutely. We will get in a car and we will drive hours to your business just to give you money if you let us know that you're there and you support and take place in our ecosystem.
And it is. Oh, go ahead, Rockstar.
It's what I wanted to say, man. It's all part of the history as well. Like that's how I see it, and make sense of people doing what you say, Derek, with 4-hour drives.
Yeah,
it's just it is part of the history, man. And I know in 50 years, in 100 years, we will be looking back at these times and being like, seriously, there were these pieces of paper, and then politicians can print them at any time, and people were expecting that AI is going to use, you know, what they say, USD. It didn't make any sense. So from that perspective, man, it's absolutely amazing to see this rollout and then talk about it with you guys again. It's part of good history and good battle for better money.
And it's so interesting too, because like right now at this particular time, like if you're a business, you have this opportunity to take advantage of this energy that is there. It may not, like once Bitcoin is ubiquitous, once every business obviously accepts Bitcoin, because, you know, like, why wouldn't you? Then you won't be able to have this kind of a disproportionate advantage right now by accepting Bitcoin. Like right now, you can still set yourself apart by accepting Bitcoin, right? At a certain point in the future, you will set yourself apart in a bad way if you don't accept Bitcoin. Like it'll just be like, why wouldn't you take Bitcoin? Okay, I'm trying to spend Bitcoin. I'm not going to go there. But right now it's like you can, Derek, to your point, like you can accept Bitcoin and get people to drive from hours away to frequent your business that would probably never have heard of you, would never have gone there in the first place, would never have given you money. But because you accept Bitcoin, you're getting people to drive from states away to go and check out your small business. Like that is a superpower. That's an awesome thing that you can do right now. And it's because Bitcoin. And what an amazing thing that you can now do that in such an easy way. Like now there's no excuse. Like if you're a Square merchant, especially, and just flip the setting over and you're good to go. And you can accept Bitcoin and you can start, you know, and if you go and post about it on Nostr, I guarantee you will drive even more people to your business, because Nostriches are even more stoked to spend Bitcoin. I feel like it's like a special, like Bitcoiners on Nostr, I feel like are a bit of a special breed where it's like they're really excited to spend sats. Like it's like a feverish excitement, you know?
That's why I tell content creators to join Nostr. You literally have tens of thousands of people that want to pay you for participating in creating content in the ecosystem. Like that, we want it. We're kind of like starved for it. So if you're a content creator, why wouldn't you participate on Nostr and get value from people that you're providing value to? Again, this seems like a no-brainer for me. Like, why wouldn't you do it? Do you not like Bitcoin? Do you not want Bitcoin?
It is crazy to me. And yeah, this stream was supposed to be also showing up on Nostr today, but I appear to be having some technical difficulties with it. But that's okay. That's just you know, that's part
just
of the
that's just a Nostr thing. Like
that's just part of the growing pains, right?
Yeah, you know, we're still early. There are some bugs from time to time. Things don't maybe work as well as you would like them to, but you know, it's still fairly new. It's following the same path as Bitcoin. Bitcoin has gotten easier to use over time. You know, 2 days ago, there wasn't 4 million potential terminals around the world to pay in Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin's getting easier over time, just like Nostr. It's following the exact same organic path. It's getting easier every day.
No, but that's what I think it is for most people, especially in the world nowadays is so chaotic. There is so much to do in your day, and people are just trying to get through the day, and they can't even like box out the time to look into stuff that will be moving us forward, like Bitcoin is moving us forward right now. I really think Nostr in 10 years will have moments like this. It will be, oh, Facebook has switched posting.
Facebook has turned on their Nostr relay.
Yeah, something like that.
It's gonna happen.
So man, it is definitely happening, but I think for most people it's just they're trying to get through the day. They're bombarded from left and right, government shut down, oh this, oh that. So if you're watching this, hey, research what we're saying so you can more quickly switch over to Bitcoin Standard and have a better life. Find that energy and time to do that.
Yeah, that is fantastic advice. We're going to cut very quickly to a commercial break, and then come right back here because I've got some more questions for you guys. I want to talk a little bit more, I think, about Nostr, some of the cool projects that you guys are seeing, because again, I think that Nostr, and I apologize, I do say Nostr, not Nostr, but it's open. You know, it's open protocol. You can say whatever you want. That's the beauty of it. But I do think that this is actually such, as you mentioned earlier, Derek, this is the largest circular Bitcoin community in the world. It just happens to be spread across the world instead of localized in a physical location, but it does still have ties to that physical world, and we've seen that spring up with different events and everything all over. So want to talk about that, want to talk about how this helps drive medium of exchange and normalize medium of exchange adoption, and want to talk about maybe with just like some tips for businesses, content creators, whatever, for kind of like getting active on Nostr, getting started, and figuring out that, hey, there is this other protocol out there that allows you to use Bitcoin just as a way of, as a part of your experience with it in a very natural way. And that's, in my opinion, one of the best ways to actually use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. If you've never done it, you can do it right now on Nostr. But we'll be back. Don't touch that dial. Quick commercial break, and then we will be right back. Thank you.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin?
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
In a world far away. Nah, just kidding. This story begins in this world. It all started in 1460 in Antwerp, when the first commodities exchange was created, but the real transformation came in 1602, when the Amsterdam Stock Exchange was founded. Considered the oldest in the world, it was the first to trade financial assets. Over the years, Britain expanded its colonial and maritime influence, and the British pound sterling overtook the Dutch guilder in the market. Thus, the London Stock Exchange became the financial centre of the world. The 20th century came, and the world got into some trouble. But shortly after World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement established the dollar as the world's primary reserve currency, and the center of the planet moved to Wall Street. Today, we're traveling at the speed of light towards a new age, an era shaped by the consolidation of Bitcoin as the currency that will define the future of the markets. We present ROCKSTAR, a new Bitcoin-denominated market that allows trading all sorts of securities, commodities, derivatives, options, and anything you can imagine. ROCKSTAR, rock-solid markets.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
Some call me Chicken Little, others Bubble Boy. I'm a bit changed, but sounds familiar, right? Let me tell you a hard truth. The S&P isn't rising, the dollar's falling. That's the trick. Monopoly money. It's ice melting by the second. Your savings, your salary, your time. Worth less every second. Everyone's using the wrong measuring stick. Switch the denominator. Price the S&P into Bitcoin. Hard, fixed, unprintable. Suddenly your unstoppable index, it's collapsing. And while you cling to dollars, well, Wall Street already switched. Before, you needed 2 brokers.
Still getting my ninja bonus though, right?
Plenty of spreadsheets. And my quant!
I hate this part.
I was right, but I'll be right again. If I were you, I'd thank me.
You know my name's Dave, right?
Welcome back to the Breaking Bit. I am Walk America. I am here with Derek Ross and my uncle, Rockstar Dev. We are talking about Bitcoin medium of exchange adoption, Square enabling Bitcoin acceptance for over 4 million merchants, and we are talking about Nostr. And so let's talk about Nostr a little bit more. Guys, I think a lot of Bitcoiners still, I've seen, somehow still see this. It's like the same FUD that you see about the Lightning Network not working, you see about Nostr just being, not working also. Where do you think we're at in terms of Nostr adoption? Because again, I think that this is it's like the purple pill in many ways leads to the orange pill. There's some vice versa going on in there. Either way, using Nostr is a great way to use Bitcoin in an everyday way. Why do you think we still see a lot of Bitcoiners who claim to be toxic maximalists being so reluctant to check out this other open protocol for communication where you happen to be able to zap sats around the world at lightning speed in real time?
I think that they are in Bitcoin for different reasons than they say they are. Full stop. Because if you actually cared about decentralization, if you actually cared about revolution, then you would want to care about freedom of speech. Because you can't truly have the freedom to transact until you have the freedom to communicate. So Bitcoin and Nostr absolutely go 100% hand in hand. Is Nostr perfect? Absolutely not. There's bugs, there's problems. But it's also new. There's no one that's in control. There's no centralized development team. It's a very grassroots thing, just like Bitcoin was many years ago. If some of us weren't around 16 years ago, but in the beginning, people were doing transactions by passing around USB sticks. That is a horrible user experience. That's why it took so long for Bitcoin to get where it's at today. Nostr is no different. The user experience needs a lot of work. There's bugs, but again, there's no company with billions of dollars hiring thousands and thousands of developers that's building it. It's a very grassroots operation with only a couple for-profit companies, a lot of grant funding that's pushing this. So it's very, very new. And I say that as someone that's been on Nostr for almost 3 years now, next month, it'll be 3 years for a lot of us. And we've seen it get so much better, and we've seen it improve. We've seen the ecosystem grow. Adoption, probably not a whole lot, but I think that that's okay for now. I think that as governments and as corporations continue to tighten the noose and show us that we have 2 sections of the web, we have this closed and permissioned and KYC web, the open web that we're building with Nostr, I think we'll start to make headway and really show the difference, that there is a different and there is a better way. And sometimes, some of the bugs and some of the issues are worth the journey.
From my side, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the right choices were made in the mainstream. The reason why Nostr started to exist initially was Fiat Jeff just wanted a place where he won't be banned. And we were in times, terrible times. We're now laughing, but hey man, if you posted hashtag learn to code to journalist on X, your account was banned. There's literally crazy times in which we were living, and people were getting banned on these centralized protocols left and right if they didn't signal even their allegiance with whatever was the right thing at the time. Luckily, situation is now way better than it was on mainstream, like centralized social media platforms. So I think a lot of people are just using the fact that that's the case, and they're now more expressing themselves on these platforms. However, as Derek says, like, the problem remains that at the flip of the switch, you can be deplatformed. And the but people are not thinking about that, or not even so much about freedom of your expression as much as it is about using it as a megaphone to boost your voice, right? And this is why I think a lot of people are choosing something like X versus Nostr, because conversations on Nostr are way better once you get them started. However, again, I think for majority of people, they're just choosing that megaphone, and it's like Bitcoin. It will continue until Nostr gets to the point where it's used for some other stuff. Like, I'm really excited to study that that will be running on top of the Nostr, like white noise, like things that you are working on, Derek, because I really think that is going to push Nostr forward, and you will have applications and use cases that you can't find otherwise. So then users will get in, and then they will be like with Bitcoin. Oh, why didn't I join Nostr in 2025? I would have so much more followers. I would. Well, sorry, like, you join now, make the best of it. So that's my long-winded answer on why Nostr hasn't received as much adoption as we expected.
Yeah, no, I think that that's fair. And maybe, Derek, this is actually a good time to talk about some of the stuff that you're working on right now. Involving vibe coding, building out various things on Nostr using Shakespeare. You're doing a bunch of different stuff. Can you maybe just like talk about that a little bit? Because I think that people often don't. They think that Nostr is just like a Twitter clone, and that's all it'll ever be. But you've got your hands in a lot of different buckets. What are you working on right now? What's exciting to you?
So you're right. A lot of people, when they think of Nostr, they think of it as just being a Twitter clone, because that's the most popular apps, like Amethyst or Primal or Damus and so forth. And that's okay, but it's so much more than that. It's, a communication layer. And if you think about it, every single app that we use today has probably some sort of communication layer built into it. And that's what makes Nostr really powerful, is because you can essentially build any type of communication app. So we have these content creators out there. We have community builders that are using forums. Maybe they're using Reddit, maybe they're using Discord or Telegram, and they're building these massive communities on somebody else's foundation, right? The drop of a hat, a flick of a switch, their entire community, their entire business model could go away. So at Soapbox, the company that I work for, we have these tools that allow anybody without any coding experience whatsoever to build the social app, to build the community app, to build the experience that they have always wanted to build. So we use AI for this. The tool is called Shakespeare, and you visit shakespeare.diy and you have a conversation in natural language. You say, I want to build a community for so-and-so that does this, this, and this, A, B, C, D. You'd lay out the whole entire thing in just a regular natural language conversation. You upload some photos maybe for your community. Maybe you're a streamer and you say, I want to build a streaming website, or maybe you're a blogger and you say, I want to build a blogging website, whatever you want. And the AI will build it for you. We also have a bunch of different templates out there to help people get started if they're kind of not really sure what they want to build, but they know they want to build. So whenever you use our tool to build your community, you are now in charge of all the community components. You're in charge of what it looks like, how it acts, how it functions. You're in charge of your personal identity and your data, and all of your community members are now in charge of their personal identities and their personal data. You can't say that about any other community tool, any other social platform that exists on the internet today, where everybody owns the community, where the users are in control. And that's what Nostr allows you to do. So Shakespeare is the tool that allows you to build the social app that you've always wanted to have. And the network is Nostr, and Nostr facilitates that social experience that allows anybody to do what they want and own their content and own their identity and own their data and all this other stuff. So you put the two together, and that's really, really powerful. Like, it's very young at this stage. Like, we've only been, Shakespeare is only a few months old at this point, but it's getting better all of the time. We're building all the time, and AI models are getting better all the time. But we also give you more choice than any other application out there for building. Like, some of you may have heard some of these other vibe coding tools. Well, they lock you into their platform. And since, we're all about open source and open protocols, you can use over 40 different AI models to choose from. You can take your data with you. You own all your data. You own the website that you build with us. You can pretty much build and do anything with Shakespeare and build any type of social experience, and you own everything. I don't think that exists anywhere else. It's really powerful. And actually, since we're talking about spending Bitcoin, let me shout out to one of the developers. His name is Lemon, and shout out to Lemon. He's building a Bitcoin wallet, and it's a Lightning wallet. It's a Bitcoin wallet, a Cashew wallet. So you can build an app, and it'll build this wallet for you. So you could go into Shakespeare and say, I want to build, my social community for streamers, and I'd like to be able to have a wallet, or whatever you decide to say, and it can build this wallet into the application for you. So you could have a Cashew wallet, a Bitcoin wallet for your users, and it's all powered by Nostr. So we're still working on that part, but that'll hopefully come out here soon, and freedom will go up at that point.
Okay, so that's
a lot of information.
Super cool. No, it's really cool. I mean, I'm curious too. So this is basically enabling, like, the goal here is remove, especially like for creators, for people who want to build a community of any kind or build a business, whatever it might be, make it in such a way that you can't be deplatformed. Again, like, keep it the core ethos of Nostr, because you're right. Like, there are so many people using these other centralized platforms, and it works great now until they rug you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it puts the creator, the content creator, the builder in control, whether that be, your video content, your photo content, your blogging content, streams, whatever, music, anything. If you produce some type of content, you should own that content, and you should be able to monetize that content however you want. You shouldn't have to meet some arbitrary follower count, to be able to start monetizing your content, and you should get paid with the best money possible, right? So you said, my favorite saying that I've been saying it for, 3 years now, the purple pill truly does help the orange pill go down. People come for the freedom to communicate, and then they realize that, oh, I can do Bitcoin with this. I can get freedom money with my freedom to talk. Well, that's pretty damn cool. The two go together so well. It's just really surprising that more people haven't bought into this notion yet. So I appreciate you having this conversation, Walker.
Absolutely. And, ROCKSTAR, I would love to get, you are my uncle ROCKSTAR developer. What do you think? I mean, like, about these kind of vibe coding tools generally? Like, is this there's a lot of, I feel like, mixed feelings on vibe coding from developers. I'd love to get your thoughts just on, like, is this a very, like, let's say, does this even the playing field a little bit for those of us who don't have the GitHub commit streak that somebody like yourself does?
No, man, I love vibe coding tools. People use them, and then there are security problems or features are implemented, so guys like me can more easily hack the system.
There you go.
So no, man, I really see it as it's the same transition as when people were transitioning from, say, assembler to higher level programming languages. So vibe coding is here to stay. It will just improve the productivity of developers and will allow new class of people to enter into software development. You could lower the bar, so to say. But once you do become a software developer, man, there are so many things to work on, to optimize, to tweak. So for me, it's it's a natural next step, and I'm excited to see, what
Rockstar, I understand
yeah.
that because I've never been busier. Now that I have like half a dozen apps out there that I've built that people are using, all I'm doing is like, feature updates, bug fixes, tweaks. Every night I'm sitting here working on stuff. I feel like I'm a rock star. I love it.
Well, there we go. Yeah, you wouldn't be coding those apps with the tools that were there before, right?
I wouldn't,
You
yeah,
can
exactly. I wouldn't be able to do that. And as somebody that has had ideas, and I'm a very technical person, but I'm not a full stack developer. I'll hack away and build very shitty things, I'll say. So the fact that I can build things that function, look well, and make tools for myself, my friends, or put it out there on the internet and have dozens of users using it, I think that is crazy. And it's the fact that it's only going to get better from here is wild to me. Like, just an example is just the other day, there was, speaking of spending Bitcoin, this is all going to tie together here, is there's a guy on Nostr, his name is Soap Miner. He sells 100% natural tallow soap. I've zapped him and he sent me soap, but his website could use a little bit of work. He's not a very technical guy. He just wants to make soap. And I used Shakespeare the other day to build him a better website, just showing him what he could do, but it only took a little bit of time. It cost $12, $12 in Bitcoin, paying to Shakespeare. And I was able to build him a website that he's going to now incorporate and use. And it looks better and functions better than what he had. And he loves it. He's extremely happy. Like, any business can do this. It doesn't have to be a social website. There's no social components on this website. It's his business website. And he had me do it, but he could have done it. I did it out of the kindness of my heart, as a, just a community benefit, but he could have done this, and anyone can do this.
That's awesome. I mean, now I'm thinking I need to vibe code myself a new website for the podcast.
Let's do it.
What stopped me? How many sats do I need to zap you to vibe code it for me? I will vibe
to make it for you. Well,
yeah, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
The going rates, like, I don't know. We'll work something out.
All right. No, I love to see this, and I think that this is one of those examples of Nostr. Not just, again, it's people are going to run away from problems with existing centralized platforms and run towards Nostr eventually. But I think in the meantime, a lot of people are going to be, running towards Nostr, not because they're running away from something, but just because the experience is better, or it allows them to do more things. It enables them to have a better user experience, to build a better community, to build, a website that is then, enabled with all of these incredible other features that Nostr has. I think that that's a really compelling thing for a lot of people. Because again, Rockstar, you hit on this. A lot of people right now are not going to come over to Nostr with the narrative of, well, I think that Elon's going to ban me, right? It's like they're feeling pretty comfortable. They're feeling like, maybe some people are, but like they're feeling pretty comfortable. Like, oh well, it's all fine over there now. Free speech is respected, all good. But the reality is that, like, they may come over just because they're like, wow, there's something I can do over here on Nostr that I cannot do anywhere else. There's some experience that I can enable that does not exist anywhere else. I think that is such a compelling argument.
It is. And, that there are people that are now used to being on Reddit. And for them, that's how they spend their free time and that they have. Derek, you were one of those people, right? And if someone now forced you to go back to Reddit, you would just be like, no, I don't want to spend my day feeding.
I was banned from the Bitcoin sub because I said the mods were being fascist, and they banned me. Which is kind of ironic.
Yeah, but the thing is, it is a system in which you have those types of disagreements and you have those types of outcomes. If mods decide that they ban someone, okay, that's it. This is why Nostr is such a better protocol. And for me, man, as a developer, as a contributor to these FOSS protocols, like do it because I see it simply a better way for the future. And that a lot of our life will just be upgraded to a better protocol. And suddenly you have these options, you have these ways to do things better, create a website, communicate with people, save for retirement. I honestly really think like even maybe healthcare is the next big thing that will be disrupted by protocols, is because in US, when you see the situation, everyone is like, okay, this is terrible, but we don't have an alternative. What should we do? Oh, we should, some people are like, oh, we should mm, advocate to politicians to create a better system for us. Yeah, like that always works, right, people? So I really believe as we are now upgrading our life in, when it comes to communication with Nostr, with money, with Bitcoin, soon enough we will have a situations where people will be like, okay, let's just have a free and open source protocol for this part of our life, and things become actually better. So
I love it. Derek, we're running up on the end of time here. Anything else you want to leave folks with?
Sure. I'll say that in regards to Nostr, the meme "we're still early" applies. We use that in the Bitcoin space. When someone doesn't like Bitcoin or doesn't get Bitcoin, we're just like, oh, this is how early we are. Well, it applies to Nostr too, right? There's a lot of things that are very different, and you have to kind of change how you view social communication. You have to realize that it's probably not good that you don't control your attention on X, and you don't control what you see on Facebook, and you don't control the algorithm on TikTok, but you're 100% in control on Nostr. You control your attention, you control your content, you control your feed, but being in control of your attention is something new. We haven't done that since social algorithms were invented, over a decade ago. So you kind of have to rewire your thought process here and get back to basics, get back to proof of work, get back to you putting in the work to be social and engage, and not be spoon-fed what a corporation thinks you should see.
Yeah. On my end, Walker, can I finish with two things?
Please. Three, even if you want.
Number one, I gotta ask you guys this: when can we say that you're like no longer early to Bitcoin? Because BlackRock is into Bitcoin. Is now like if you came into Bitcoin after BlackRock, are you really early? Like when is that moment?
Maybe when Bitcoin is gold's market cap, you're no longer early. I don't know.
What do you say, Derek?
I want to know who joining Nostr is the BlackRock.
For Nostr, it is early, yeah, but we need to get BlackRock to join Nostr, and then you're no longer early.
Then everyone uses the BlackRock relay. Is that what it goes?
Yeah. Okay, but we're getting somewhere. As Walker said, it's like gold market cap. Okay, that's a good one.
I agree. Yeah, so we got a little bit of time still.
Oh, okay.
Like a month, 2 months, something like that.
Yeah, maybe next year.
The second thing that I wanted to say is like related is, Walker, I actually love your ads on Roxum, and I think that's great pointer, because when I was talking with Vences Caceres and Roxum team, the work they're doing is amazing. That thesis that the money you're using, the money you're on, is extremely important, and it's actually driving the conversation. Like, okay, where is the center of the world? Like, where was the exchange? What was the reserve currency? That's what's happening with Bitcoin, and I love that Roxum is taking that thesis and being like, okay, Bitcoin is the new world reserve currency. We have a market on top of Bitcoin, and that's why it will be successful. So I love that, and again, love the ads. I think they're going to point a lot of normies and a lot of people in a good direction and make their life better.
I know that the team did a super nice job on the ads. They're like they're crisp, super nice. But yeah, it's true. It's like once you change that perspective, and like it starts at a personal level, right? It starts at a personal level. You saying like Bitcoin is my reserve currency, like Bitcoin is my unit of account, and once you do that, It's like your perspective shifts, your entire mentality, your worldview shifts, your time preference shifts. It's the same for a company doing that, or it's the same for a country doing that. It's the same for the entire world doing that. But like, it starts with each of us, right? And I think that that's what's so powerful is anyone at any time can make that decision to change their perspective, to change their personal unit of account, and it will change your life. And like your life will get easier instead of getting harder. And that's a foreign concept these days when everything gets more expensive all the time. But it's the reality. And then once you start realizing, oh wait, I can spend money without permission, then that opens up a whole new world. So it's like, yes, the store of value matters. Yes, the unit of account matters. Yes, the medium of exchange matters. It all matters. Like, it's all Bitcoin. And without all of that, without that, like that trifecta, you're not truly experiencing what Bitcoin can do for you. And I'm glad that all of us are, like, like it's like the galaxy brain moment where it's like, whoa. But it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to do it. And I'm glad to, like you said, Rockstar, we're going to look back at this 50 years later and be like, man, what wild times. I can't believe more people didn't see it, because they will all see it eventually, but it's going to take some time. That's how we're still early as well. But guys, I really appreciate you guys coming on here. This has been a fantastic
great chatting with
here.
Friends. I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you guys in the near future.
No, let's do it. And thank you for everybody who tuned into this stream. This is the Breaking Bit. Still not entirely sold on the name. We'll see if I stick with it. I keep saying that every week and it keeps sticking. So maybe I am sold on it. I'm not sure. But my name is Walker America. I will be back here with you next week from 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another 3-hour marathon of the Breaking Bit. Until then, thank you guys for sharing your scarce time with me here. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Uncle Rockstar. It was great to see you. And if I'll leave you with one thing, it's go try Noster, go spend sats, go zap sats, go post memes and foot pics and dog pics and cat pics and whatever else, food pics, and get zap sats in return, and then go spend them at a Square merchant. Keep those sats flowing, because the sats must flow. Thank you guys. I'll see you next week.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin?
It's not just a cat, his family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy. Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
In a world far away. Nah, just kidding. This story begins in this world. It all started in 1460 in Antwerp, when the first commodities exchange was created, but the real transformation came in 1602, when the Amsterdam Stock Exchange was founded. Considered the oldest in the world, it was the first to trade financial assets. Over the years, Britain expanded its colonial and maritime influence, and the British pound sterling overtook the Dutch guilder in the market. Thus, the London Stock Exchange became the financial centre of the world. The 20th century came, and the world got into some trouble. But shortly after World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement established the dollar as the world's primary reserve currency, and the center of the planet moved to Wall Street. Today, we're traveling at the speed of light towards a new age, an era shaped by the consolidation of Bitcoin as the currency that will define the future of the markets. We present ROCKSTAR, a new Bitcoin-denominated market that allows trading all sorts of securities, commodities, derivatives, options, and anything you can imagine. ROCKSTAR, rock-solid markets.
Security matters. Zappo Bank. The only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
Some call me Chicken Little, others Bubble Boy. I'm a bit changed, but sounds familiar, right? Let me tell you a hard truth. The S&P isn't rising, the dollar's falling. That's the trick. Monopoly money. It's ice melting by the second. Your savings, your salary, your time. Worth less every second. Everyone's using the wrong measuring stick. Switch the denominator. Price the S&P into Bitcoin. Hard, fixed, unprintable. Suddenly your unstoppable index, it's collapsing. And while you cling to dollars, well, Wall Street already switched. Before, you needed 2 brokers.
Still getting my ninja bonus though, right?
Plenty of spreadsheets. And my quant!
I hate this part.
I was right, and I'll be right again. If I were you, I'd thank me.
You know my name's Dave, right?